Defining Duke, an Xbox podcast, is brought to you by, well, you. If you want to learn how to support the show, go to patreon.com/laststandmedia. Salutations, everybody. It is Matty here today, and welcome to episode 4 of Defining Duke, an Xbox podcast. I messed it up. Defining. It's got an F, not a V. Defining Duke.
Oh, instead of divining.
Yeah,
Duke?
I said divining Duke.
Like mediums. We are covering the medium today.
I mean, actually,
so we're sort of.
We just went to the spirit world for a second. All right.
Why is my head so big on this fucking thing? I love it. You look totally normal to me. And I started like this, and that's why you saw me go, whoa, what the... Anyway, and I'm Karak with ACG of the Defining Duke. What are we on? Number 6?
5. 4.
Number 5.
4.
Number
Holy shit.
Wow, we're jumping. Let's just keep going, man.
I'm excited for our show's future, clearly. Anyway, welcome one and all to our Xbox and PC podcast. We hope you're doing okay. You know, I've wished you absolute excellence for the last number of weeks, and to balance things out, you need an okay day. So I hope today is just your okay day, because without an okay day, you can't have your goods and bads. So I hope today is positively mediocre for you.
Medium. It's
right.
Perhaps just medium, right?
Yeah, perhaps medium. With that, if you want to support this show, you find us worth your hard-earned dollar. We do appreciate that. You can head over to patreon.com/laststandmedia, where early access goes live every Thursday, and then it hits free feeds like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, plenty more on Sunday. Furthermore, you can watch the video version over on the Last Stand Media YouTube channel. Now, we called for all of you to step up and enter the audio reviews on iTunes, Apple Podcasts. And we asked for just 100. We're at 170 plus now. So thank you so much for that. We've already seen our numbers surge thanks to that.
Thank you for not being able to count. Thank you for not being educated and
seriously.
getting us past 100 when we only asked for that.
Honestly, you guys were just like, wait, there's got to be a 2 there. But yeah, for real, thank you all so much. It means the world, and we appreciate that all of you went above and beyond with 5 stars. We had one star review. Apparently we swear too much, so we'll leave that in the audience's hand to decide if we we curse too much. But with that, we appreciate all of you writing in, giving us very nice reviews, and please do keep that up. It has already made a difference, so do continue to do that. Maybe we'll pass 200 next week. With that, just a reminder, Defining Duke Ultimate is coming in February. That'll be our supplemental show. So when you write in, we had 50 plus write-ins this week. We appreciate that so much because it's going to give us a lot of content to dig back into when we start doing those bonus episodes like mailbags or whatever. So it's a lot to sift through, and you all have great questions. With that, enough show promo out of the way. It's Karak promo time. Karak, what have you been working on, brother?
We got the medium review. Also, check out my Patreon. We're doing some cool stuff there in the last couple weeks. It's been a blast. I had somebody a couple days ago who's like, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and drop your Patreon and go over to Collins. And I was like, not connected. I was like, wait, you might, and they're like, oh, you're not? And I was like, no, man. I mean, I do the show, but I was like, he was like, and he's like a $25. He's all, oh. And I was like, feel free if you want to split it amongst all of us. And he's like, nah, I just watched you once or twice on that. And I was like, oh God, here we go. So if you get a chance, check out the Patreon. I love it. We also getting people to rate the podcast is a huge help. Like people don't realize, and I'm going to be honest, I don't think I realized rating of the podcast and what that meant versus views, but I think that's because somewhere someone is like, they could bot a view, but hiring somebody to do reviews at that point is pretty stupid. Like there's something there where it seems like they care. Yeah. So there's that. I got a couple reviews. I'm playing a couple different games, random videos, and today I think I'm going to do this with you, and then I'll probably relax because Medium, you and I were trading DMs, not super late, but we were trading DMs last night talking about a couple things. Or was it the night before? No,
it was last night. Yeah, it was kind of a blur. Okay. Yeah, because I beat the game yesterday, and I was texting you just like,
Yeah, right. And it is just a long night. So I think today I'm just going to relax, shoot some airsoft or something. That's it.
Nice.
That's it for me.
Nice. Yeah, for me, same thing, right? Just so everyone knows, obviously supporting Colin's Patreon, the Last Stand Media Patreon does help us.
Yeah,
but
sure.
of course, supporting us individually helps as well. So if you'd like to do that, by all means. I also reviewed the Medium. We're going to be having an extended review discussion in this podcast episode,
Yes,
like we will be with all
very cool time
Series X exclusives and whatnot. So yeah, expect that in the future, but this is our first one for that. So I have an individual review on my channel with my whole new setup. You can kind of see the lighting in the backdrop. That's what I sit in front of now, and it's really, really improved. So pretty happy with that. Should improve the quality and lighting of the video overall. Other than that, just a lot of KOTOR discussions. A lot of KOTOR discussions coming. I'm very, very happy. A lot of things to talk about this week. We have 3 big pieces of news that could easily be number 1. But do know, we usually do 5 questions in our intro. We like to keep this show flexible. We had so many write-ins and so many write-ins about particular news topics. I whittled down the intro questions to 3. We're still going to end with 5. But there's so many submissions throughout the news that it's actually more than any prior episode. So with that, let's get started with Joey.
I do want to say real quick, people
should
check out Matty's. You didn't drop your review. You said you had a review, but you should check out Matty's review on the Medium, because also, I got to say, you got a lot of people commenting on the lights themselves. Like, people normally like your reviews, but I saw a lot of people who were in there going like, what the? That looks awesome.
Well, you can see it in this. Like, the light's so harsh in here with the overheads.
Yeah.
So not having that.
Yeah, but your green one looks, it's pretty bomb. Because I was joking about, I stayed for the beanie, like, in the other video, and I don't even know if that had the color, because I saw the beanie, and I don't think it did have
it didn't.
Okay.
No.
Because I was like, I feel so stupid because I didn't see it in the other video, and then yesterday I saw that, and I was like, oh, he's rocking the beanie again, because I know you're saying it's snow and it's cold over there, and I was like watching it, and then all of a sudden I saw the background, and I was like, whoa, that's ace, man.
Yeah.
That's
Thank you.
A huge step up. It's awesome looking.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, we, my girlfriend and I spent like 12 hours building everything. You can see we hung up new pictures, displays, all that to make it a lot more of a creative space for me, but also just we have way more room in here now. So I'm really, really happy with it. Thank you. And so with that, Joey Hornreich. Sounds like a character from Skyrim. It's your turn to write in.
Joey! Yeah.
Hey, my bro Beans, been playing the beginning missions in Hitman 3 and I've been absolutely in love with the slow stealth gameplay and beautiful level environments. But one thing stuck out to me like a sore thumb with this game. How can a AAA game like this have such terrible facial animations and face designs? It boggles my brain that studios can make water look like real water, but our pesky faces are still so hard to master. Maybe I'm just spoiled with games like The Last of Us Part 2. What do you guys gather from this? Keep up the juicy work and keep hating those achievements, ACG. I wanted to bring this up because we also had a little bit of news that Hitman 3 had it had made all its money back on development, which is awesome to hear. I was a little bit nervous because I don't know if people are into stealth games. Yeah, in 1 week too. Like I'm so happy about that. I love Hitman 3. I figured if anything, this just opens up the can of worms to talk about this game, because we didn't really get to on ham radio last week because we just missed.
That is true.
And so this is our chance, man. This is our chance. So in answer to Joey's question, I think it's just boiled down to where they want to focus their resources. Does facial animations and conversations really matter in Hitman, especially when you have such a steely-eyed protagonist who shows zero emotion?
Right.
Yeah.
It's just like, I am on fire. And you're all, dude. Yeah, he's pretty laid back at times.
Yeah, a little bit more than usual. So yeah, I think it just boils down to just resource management. And, would you rather have 2 more assassinations or Hitman Agent 47 look, a little more animated? I don't know. I think it'd be creepy if he had like a really realistic smile or something like that as he uses the garrote on you. Yeah. Like the fucking Joker.
That'd be so frightening. I think you're right, and I think that they knew that this would be the last one for a while, so it's like you can hire David to come back and do a facial structure, but they changed him, made him look a little younger in this one, which I'm not quite sure why. But he does look a little younger. But I think this is the 3rd one. They're going to Bond, so it's like, you know what? We're going to put our money where, I'm going to be brutally honest, it matters, which is like the cutscenes, which I didn't think would matter. But in this one, so that's starting, so I don't know if you notice this, but dude, that first part when he jumps into Dubai and it's such a Mission Impossible kind of moment where he's jumping on the skyscraper at the starting, and the music is like this crescendo. It was actually, a lot of times Hitman music has some classical for sure, but then it gets a little vibe-ish. But fuck, man. It's just that entire scene, and I was like, dude, that was the cutscene, nailing it. Or the cutscenes with the, like, zoom in of, you know, the blueprint, almost like a black and white blueprint kind of ray traced. Like, that shit just, it was ace, and it made me pay attention. I was finally like, oh, wait, because the cartoon ones in 2 were pretty rough.
Yeah, they were cool stylistically, but they never grabbed me. I was just there for the missions. I never actually noted that in my review. That's a really good point. It does demand your attention a little bit more. Even if, like, the story was all right, like, it does call for you to focus. And especially when they wrapped up really interesting objectives inside the story, inside the gameplay that connect to the story, that really helped bump it up a little bit more. What's even more cool, though, is actually when you finish those missions and you replay them, you don't have to do the story objectives again. That's what I was really worried about when I played it through the first time. I was like, oh, man, am I going to have to do these story objectives every time? You don't. And I've played like 30 plus hours on just those 5 maps alone. The last mission doesn't count. That shit sucks. But those 5 maps, oh my God. Oh my God, dude. Especially the Dartmoor mansion. Oh my Lord. I have replayed that probably 20 times. I love that mission so much. One of my favorite stealth missions of all time. It is just the amount of options, how twisted it is, the murder mystery involved. I mean, which has a good story attached to it. Just so good. It's so good.
Would you agree, though? I said in my review, I think this game would be considered so first of all, I adore it. Like, I honestly think it's one of the best, like, stealth games of all time, for sure. Maybe not in the top 3.
Is that including the Hitman 1 and 2 maps, or just 3 on its own?
It's including all the Hitman games, too. Because I remember I played number 1 back in the old days. So, I mean, I love these Splinter Cells, all that. But I don't know about you. I did say in the review, I feel that this would be considered a bit more of a master class if there was one additional massive level. And I don't know why I thought that, but it might be that ending level not being the greatest or whatever.
Yeah.
But I get into the True Lies level, which is I call it True Lies, but which is probably too old for you, but it was an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie about spies.
Okay.
And they had a dancing scene in it where the spy was dancing. So the vineyard scene, when you go into the vineyard and the women are dancing with the guys and they're doing the tank. And I was, as a fan, I assume that's where came from. Because I'm like, this is the greatest fucking thing I've ever seen. And that level got bigger and bigger. I was like, it's just this, right? And they're like, no, it's the winery too.
Dude,
and you're like, okay, it's the winery and this. And they're like, no, it's the winery, this, and the vineyard. And you're like, okay. And then they're like, oh, but it's also the mansion.
That is,
and you're like, what the
perfectly
fuck?
Put. Yeah, that is so perfectly put.
Oh,
when I went back to that and I found the
so
mansion,
good.
when I found the mansion, oh my word, man, I was like, what?
It's like a child, man. I was just like, because a lot of games you're always like feeling a little bit shortchanged. But yeah, dude, I mean, that game, we didn't get to cover it a lot. It's fantastic, and all the power to them for Bond, right? I mean, the shooting isn't great in Hitman, though, which makes me nervous because Bond is more shooting. But...
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, but at least on the level of creativity and picking apart a level, oh man, they got a lot done with Hitman 3. It is really good. So hopefully that answers your question, Joey. But for those of you out there listening, Hitman 3, well worth your money, especially if you own 1 and 2, and you can just bring those maps over. The AI and all the engine upgrades from 3 going to 1 and 2, so it's practically remastering the games. It's just it's insane, man.
Yeah, it's so good.
Yeah. Alex Roberts right in with our second intro question. Hi guys, with the recent rumors that Xbox may have 1 or 2 more big games slated for this year, which of the projects that seemed far out do you think could possibly be coming out by the end of 2021? So I actually looked this up because I wasn't sure if this was like a random rumor from like Reddit or something, but this actually came from Jez Corden of Windows Central Gaming, who has been a reliable source in the past for Xbox related information. And he did say that in response to the list that we covered last week with Chris, you know, the 20 plus Xbox Series X and S exclusives, that there were 1 or 2 there missing that are big games coming out this year. So what do you think those could be? Because, you know, I wrote down a couple of ideas, wanted to see if you agree with them. I thought a new Forza game right away was like the first thought.
Yeah.
I feel like that's kind of overdue almost. I don't know if it would be Horizon or Motorsport, but I feel like a new Forza game must happen soon, especially because that's usually like with the launch of Xbox.
Right.
So
for sure.
I threw that in there. I threw in Wolfenstein 3 because while we just learned about Indiana Jones and we did see Youngblood, I think it was 2 years ago. I do feel like that was not their main project since it was co-developed by Arcane Studios. So I feel like Wolfenstein 3 could be due this year since it's been, I think, 4 since Wolfenstein 2. And the last suggestion I had was a bit out there, but I think it's possible, and I would love to see it. I love this studio. I love what they did. Compulsion Games. For those who don't know, they developed We Happy Few. We Happy Few did not light my fire, really. It was a solid game in a couple of ways, really artistically. Of course, bringing back a lot of BioShock vibes. But now that they're under Xbox, they're working on a new game. Their last DLC was November of 2019. This is 100% a studio I would love to see what they're working on. And it kind of calls back to a question we got about how Xbox could revive certain franchises with their respective developers. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But what do you make of what I have here? Do you think there's more?
I think the only one I would care out of all that, I mean, obviously there's a Forza, so I'll just say that's a given. I don't know about this year, but the We Happy Few guys, I'd like to see their stuff. And in fact, I wouldn't mind a We Happy Few 2 because I actually think We Happy Few 1 had some cool narrative chops, some cool ideas. And an interesting world, certainly a world you don't see very often, which is where you have to do drugs to like walk. Like that was just the drug social disguise system in a weird way. Like I was never expecting that. Personally, and we'll talk about some rumor, like because I got a DM about some stuff that now apparently is sort of a thing, and that person had sent me a DM about some other stuff. I don't really know what people consider big anymore. Because one of the things that happens is, like, for example, I was never understanding why people are talking about the medium as being some massive exclusive, right? It's an exclusive. And maybe that's people hinging too much on one thing. But I think people should more prepare for the B-level surprises this year. If there's an A-level surprise this year and we haven't heard wind of it at all, that is going to be awesome for the industry because that'll indicate rumors can be held, can be truly held on games that deep in development, which I'm not quite sure it can be. So I would say like a Forza for next year. This year, I heard one rumor, but it doesn't make sense because it's actually not in their current stable. But I heard that it's like the reason why it's exclusive is because Microsoft is in the midst of buying them, and then it will be in their stable, and that would be a pretty big get. But I don't really know of anything. Those companies.
Should I pick? Do you plan on divulging these details, or are we keeping them to ourselves?
On this particular company, I absolutely will not.
Okay.
I have friends who work there. Okay. There's no way I'll divulge this one. Yeah.
Gotcha.
But I will say I think that I don't really have any big ones for this year, so I'd love to be surprised by trying to think of what you could even.
You can throw Starfield on the list. I mean, I still believe that's this year. We just don't know for sure if that's Xbox exclusive.
Man, you and I are going to go back and forth. It's going to be a little bit like Final Fantasy Remake, where I never thought it was going to really happen. I was just like, dude, it's had too many problems. It's never happened. So when that finally shows up this year, I'm just going to be like, holy fuck, I owe Matty like $100.
Nah, man, I'll take a hug in your presence. That's all.
There you go.
Well, hopefully that answers your question, Alex, and gets your brain juices going. Now, Nick Laird writes in, greetings, Titty McMatty and Five Guys Karak. Good Lord, you guys are unhinged. We've established burgers don't hold too large of a spot in your hearts. I thought we should move along and discover both of your feelings towards pizza. Do you have a favorite pizza chain? As someone who owns an Xbox for the first time, Series X, I'm loving the podcast. Super grateful for what you guys are doing. Wishing you all the best. Thank you, Nick. Yeah, we're moving past Five Guys. It's been established for like 3 episodes now. Pizza, however, pizza is a whole other discussion. Because he mentioned a chain. And look, as a New Yorker, you don't go to a chain. You go to that dollar pizza place. You find the random pizza place, that homemade Italian pizza. You don't go to a chain. But, Nick, I'm a nice guy. I'll play your game here. and I'll raise you a I'm gonna
play your game.
Yeah,
God damn it.
I'll play this stupid little game. I gotta check. I will go with Pizza Hut because they have this thing called the $20 box that I used to be obsessed with in college, and it came with like breadsticks, tons of pizza. It came with I think it came with chicken wings, and as a college student, oh my god, man, I could live off this stuff. I actually have a photo of me sitting there on the fucking couch, holding my stomach, sitting next to a completely open $20 box, just like you can see I'm dead, man. I was literally on my deathbed there. So I'll play the game and say Pizza Hut, but I would rather eat 40 other things before that. With that said, the $20 box is phenomenal. I will give that my endorsement. Karak, are you even a pizza guy? I actually don't know that about you.
No, I posted this in the Defining Duke, which is probably why we're being questioned. I was like, I just don't care to ever talk about food, ever. Like, I'm not a foodie, ever. If I could have a pill that you would swallow and it was all the daily requirements of the day,
Joy?
That would be the best. Yes. If it was something like that. And Bliss. Oh, no, Bliss was Far Cry 5,
Oh, yeah, Far Cry 5.
Bliss.
Yeah.
It was a Far Cry 5. But I don't really... Yeah, I mean, I wish I looked like I didn't really care about food, but I just don't. I don't, But I will say I'm like you, where I have a tendency, if somebody says, let's get food, I'll probably, or if it's pizza and it's a chain, it would probably end up defaulting to Pizza Hut, because I will tell you, I don't know about you, but Pizza Hut, I can get usually with a coupon or something a little cheaper, where our Domino's, which is another brand, depending on where people are. And then what's the other one? Papa's.
Oh, Papa John's, yeah. I only got that once.
Which just, I'm not a big fan, but they're also expensive here. They're considered like culinary pizzas in my town. In my town,
God.
like so you were saying New York, that's sort of the way where I live is, where they're sort of like highfalutin in their, so for example, on a pizza, I don't know about you, I just want pepperoni, man. Like, I don't need, I like Super Supreme, but I don't need 100 things. But the last pizza I got was not Pizza Hut. It was some fucking side company. And no lie, man, there was like shrimp on it.
Shrimp?
And I was like, and no lie, there was shrimp on it, by the way. This is not an exaggeration. Cadiz in my Discord can tell you. And I was just like, fuck you, pizza. Fuck you.
Yeah, that's not right. That's not right.
Because I don't like seafood anyway, but stuck on my pizza.
Yeah.
That's wrong. It's that highfalutin, like, pinky up shit.
Well,
like,
yeah, 100%. A lot of people try to get way too fancy with their pizza, right? Like, it's cheese on bread, essentially. And I'm just going to call it as it is. And look, like, slapping random things on it does not make you eccentric. That's a fact.
Yeah, exactly.
That you got to live with.
Exactly.
So, we probably
I guess Pizza
sparked a
Hut
debate.
won by default for cost and, not dying after eating it.
Yeah, yeah. Unless you eat that whole $20 box, you're going to live. You'll be fine. So, I mean, here I am.
Yeah, stomach distended, but here he is.
All right. So those are some of our intro questions. Thank you all for writing in. We're going to talk about the medium now. So this is, like I said, the first kind of exclusive game to come out during this show's life. We'll be doing this with all future Xbox Series X and S releases. Just kind of talking about the game from its story to its gameplay, spoiler-free sound as well. Kind of just expanding upon our reviews. Once again, individual reviews are on our respective channels, ACG and Mr. Matty Plays, if you want to see that alongside some gameplay examples. Adam Milani writes in, hey fellas, the launch of the medium is upon us. I suppose the best case scenario for this game is that it is a, quote, Silent Hill clone, end quote, which would be a big win for Bloober and Microsoft. My question is, with all the studios that Microsoft now has at their disposal, would it be a smart move to have some of them make new versions of franchises that people have been crying out for? Bloober makes a new Silent Hill with the medium, have Compulsion Games make a new BioShock, have Undead Labs make a new Splinter Cell, etc., etc. Obviously, not the same IP, but spiritual sequels, reboots, reimaginings. What are your thoughts? All the best, Adam. So I thought this would be a good lead-in to talk about what the medium is, and I think his hype got beyond him a little bit. Because the medium, I've seen some really high scores from the medium. I saw IGN and GameSpot gave it a 9. I know Skill Up recommended it, but you and I watched your review, man. I was like, we've been on the same page before, but it was like listening to my own review in a way. I was thinking to myself, holy shit, Karak and I had the same experience.
Yeah, I mean, most of the people I know that I talked to prior and then this morning didn't like it. There's some people who did, but it's only tracking at like a 73 or something like that, which when you indicate a couple 9s and 90s, which is really high, it's actually more in the middling to low but those couple nines, actually propped it up a little bit. So
yeah,
I don't know, man. It's fucking, I mean, it's boring. It doesn't have a lot of puzzles. It's boring. Technically, it's got a ton of issues. I didn't really know what they were going to try to do with the dual world thing, but whatever they tried to do failed miserably because it barely shows up. Or it's not that it barely shows up, it's that it doesn't show up very often, much less than I expected.
Yeah.
And at the starting, you think it's going to show up a lot. And in fact, I would say a person who progressively plays it might find their opinion diminishing as they do so.
Mm-hmm.
Because what I found was you start that and that's why sometimes I'm like, did these people play all the game? Because dude, the starting in the little room, I got really nervous right away because I'm like, dude, this is a massive room and one thing can be interacted with. One. Mm-hmm. It's a massive room. And then I go to the next room. It's a pretty big room. One thing can be interacted with. And I'm like, all right, man, I hope it's not like this. And then I go to another room, one thing, and they're big rooms and they look good. Yeah. And then she decides to fucking go to a hotel in the middle of nowhere with nothing. No flashlights, no fucking nothing. She just jumps on a motorbike and goes, and then from that point on, everything looks like dump. It does not look that good,
yeah,
man.
I saw a lot of people compliment the visuals. I don't
know what game they played. Like, the visuals are not very, from a technical standpoint, the visuals are not very good. Somebody told me, they DM'd me and said that it's 900p on the Xbox X at times.
Yeah, it can dip when you're doing that dual reality gameplay.
Yeah, and that's another thing, the dual reality part. Dude, I loved her pantomiming, talking to, like, Sadness, because in one world she's seeing Sadness and the other she's not.
Yeah,
I thought that was
cool.
Great. And then I made the mistake. I had the unmitigated gall to look in the background. And I realized that in the shadow world, there's thousands of things that are nothing but a simple box with a texture pasted over it. And no lie, I've got it in my video, and I noticed it a couple times, but a couple bits of the footage I didn't even notice in the footage. And then people were like, holy shit, that looks bad. I rarely say I don't get it, but I certainly don't get 9s, especially when they gave Prey a 4. The same companies that give, and I get it's different people, but there has to be some kind. I mean, at some point you have to look and go, what do we got here? There's micro stutter. DF for sure mentioned that because I knew that they were going to talk about that. I definitely had it. There's a ton of issues. I don't see any. I mean, I don't see anything there. Mm-hmm. There's just not much there.
Yeah. I'll pick it up with the just how it was boring. Because that was like the first thing you had stated. Because I remember I'm not someone who uses boring frequently in reviews because I think it takes a lot for me to get bored of a video game, to be honest, which I think is a good thing. But yeah, the last time I used that was with Godfall. The difference between Godfall and the medium is Godfall is, as I've said before, like aggressively mediocre. It doesn't do anything whatsoever new. It is just, it's insanely boring. Whereas the medium is boring because, as Karak said, there really isn't gameplay. And when there are puzzles and you start to use the dual reality, I think its biggest problem is it doesn't expand. It doesn't expand the ideas of what those puzzles do.
It doesn't try to do anything.
It doesn't. It just goes flip back and forth, pick up this object here, put it in the real world, that type of thing. It doesn't work beyond that, though. It doesn't try to introduce new powers, maybe, because she has the Spirit Blast and the Spirit Shield. You get that in the first, I shit you not, hour of the game. In like a 8 to 10 hour game, nothing beyond that. So you get no new tools to creatively approach puzzles or to think a little bit harder and get that sense of satisfaction. They kind of start to feel like roadblocks for a story and universe that I thought was all right. I think you and I can probably agree on this, is that I thought they handled collectibles well because they kind of made sense, like how she could feel the echoes through the spirit world. And instead of it being like audio logs that like, I'm dying right now, I'm going to leave behind this safe code. You know, it's like one of those you could hear and feel.
It was more of a psychic ESP kind of thing.
And so I appreciated that personally. Yeah. But overall, my hype was not high for this game. I was excited to review it because, you know, for our show here, you know, I was looking forward to having a Series X/S exclusive to talk about, but I just really found myself bored and the game never really getting going. And there was at one point over a half-hour stretch where I just held the left stick forward. No gameplay.
Yeah.
Very minimal interactions, just listening and walking. And at the end of the road, you press X, and it's just like, what the like, dude. And it wears it on its sleeve. For those who don't believe me, go look up the achievement list for the medium. Try to look up a spoiler-free one. There is literally an achievement called Running Simulator.
Yeah.
They are very
Yeah,
well aware.
I got that, by the way.
Yeah, you do. You get it early on, and I'm like, oh,
you get
God,
it early
no.
on. Yeah. I was like, that's a weird one to get this early.
Yeah, just look at the achievement list in general. Like, you get achievements for the most ridiculous things. And the difference here is, like, the medium could have gotten away, and it's definitely not trying to be this type of game, but, you know, you can get away with just story if, I don't know, I think of a Heavy Rain. You have all these choices and different paths, and and that type of stuff is a little more appealing with just story. But
Detroit Become Human.
Yeah, that's another one, more recent one too. You know, there are great story games, or as some will call them, walking simulators, that have interesting tales. Usually they're 2 hours though, 2 to 4 hours. This is 8 to 10 of just straight walking. So yeah, just to reiterate once more, this is an incredibly boring game, unfortunately. And it has a good gimmick that we haven't really seen before outside of course, like a split screen multiplayer, but I think the way the worlds are rendered is a little bit different here in this case. But yeah, I just feel like they didn't expand upon the ideas they had. They just kind of left it as is and hoped you liked it.
It's going to be rough too, Matty, because I think that those people who really, I mean, and this, I wouldn't say this unless I truly was actually like, this is going to suck, but there's going to be a lot of bump back when people play it who thought it might be good. I'm not saying that some people won't play it and think it's good, but I think a lot of people might get this on Game Pass and still go, holy shit, this wasn't worth the bandwidth. And I'm not exaggerating that. I truly do believe that there's not a lot going on in that game.
It's true, though. Yeah.
It is like a mobile game at times. I mean, there's a lot of places where I was like, dude, are you seriously telling me I just have to like walk around 7 things, grab a fucking sunflower and put it in a vase? Like,
yeah, I know what part you're talking about.
in like 6 rooms, that's it. And that's the starting after the good city, the town. But again, especially me, I have a tendency to really track that starting and go, okay, how many interactables? Is it front loaded? Is there a shit ton of interactables and then it goes down? And here there was only a couple. And I was like, well, that's odd. So maybe you're going to get a bunch later on. And then as you start walking around, you can look at one map on the entire walk to like from the hotel, from the grass, across the grasslands of the hotel. And I'm just walking going, nothing's happening. Nothing's happening. And by the way, as somebody who loves walking simulators, Ethan Carter, Vanishing of Ethan Carter, fucking phenomenal game. But that had shit all the time. It was giving you stuff. It was giving it this just
pace,
nothing.
Yeah.
Just nothing. So there's going to be a lot, I think, of that, you know, oh, what the fuck? You know, did people paid off by my... I already got a couple DMs from people. Were people paid off? I'm like, no.
Dude, people are already aggressively defending
I don't know
game.
what's happening because, like, some of those scores, I saw, like, scored in particular, I saw a 9 or 2, and I was like, well, I'm sorry. Like, how do you get a 9 out of this? I mean, even if you think it's good, how do you get a 9 out of it? What do you compare that to?
Because here's the thing, right? Like, let's talk horror a little bit. They say it's like a psychological thriller horror game, and
no, it's not.
I'm an easy target, dude. I'm telling you right now, listen to this clearly. Anyone who is listening to this show, I am probably your #1 easiest target in a horror game. I get scared easy, I get nervous easy, and the cheapest tricks in the book work on me. This game is not remotely scary or intense. It like there's nothing, man. It's real. That to me was the most disappointing part. I tried to avoid that word in my review because it wasn't like I had high hopes where I was like, oh man, what a letdown. But that to me was disappointing because I thought at least that could carry it, right? Some thrills, some adrenaline rushes, those narrow escapes. They try to incorporate that in the gameplay when they have that invisible creature walking around kind of stalking you. But that's where the linearity kicks in for me. That's where the linearity really shines. And you start to see like, wow, it's really just funneling you straight forward.
That's stealth. Yeah. There's, dude, I even talked about it in my review where I read off a description of fear and what fear meant, you know, the
I remember that
textbook description of fear. And I'm just sitting there going like, guys, I mean, admittedly, I don't get scared, but I can tell you when a scary part happens in a game. I love Alan Wake. I know that what some parts people would consider scary and they might be creepy, there's nothing in this game. There was the one part, I don't want to ruin it. There was one little jump scare in the entire game that happens near the sun. Yeah. And I was like, oh. And, but that was it. That was my reaction, was like, oh, okay. That's it. Like, that's it. You know, there's not, and I think that it's sad all around. You know, people say this is a Microsoft exclusive, and it's like, no, it's Bloober's they made it. Like they don't work for Microsoft in the same way that like Bethesda does. But I do wonder where they would have went with another year, and I don't necessarily know if what I saw would have been improved by a year.
That's so true. That's what I was thinking too, because it was just like, for me, it was the gameplay, because I thought the story was serviceable, and maybe I would have liked it more if the gameplay didn't just weigh it down so much or stop you. I just thought the universe was cool. We're not going to spoil anything in this, but just the way it stays kind of grounded in universe. I liked its time period.
That's true. Different time period, right? And Poland.
Yeah.
Poland, which
I thought all of that was...
I don't think there's any games.
Yeah, there really isn't many. And so I thought it was just really well thought out for the most part. The collectibles are really heavily leaned on, though. If you're just taking in straight story and not exploring what little areas you could and reading everything, you're probably going to miss some, especially at the end of the game, some pretty important bits. But, that, to me, just, the gameplay really brought it down. Do you want to talk sound a little bit? Because that's another big part of horror. And, like, I had my headphones on the whole time, lights off. I was trying to create that atmosphere, and just, there wasn't any like little clever audio tricks that I felt could enhance the atmosphere. No, it just had
good environmental, but it didn't have anything special.
Yeah.
Like I didn't have any dings against it at all, other than it didn't elevate. But it was sound. It was. I was actually in particular on less so on sound. There's a couple parts in sound I sort of liked, but not great. But the thing that didn't bother me. The thing that sort of shocked me was that if you watch their behind the scenes for music, both composers state they like silence. And I get that, but I think it was overused here, because there was a lot of times where I was like, dude, there's no music at all.
Yeah, the one time they played music, I picked up on it, and it was really good.
Yeah, exactly, but the pauses were too long.
Yeah.
And when you combine that, so if you had put the music during the slow parts, I actually wonder if that would have helped, like a little tension to make you go, what is around the corner? Maybe nothing, because there isn't in this game. Maybe there is nothing around the corner. That is true, there is nothing. But if you went around the corner and thought there was because of the music, maybe that would have caused me to pay it more dividends. But yeah, neither. And then the voice Sadness I thought was awesome. I didn't see if you talked about the voices, but I thought Sadness was awesome. I thought the Maw was okay. Troy Baker, like, he was just a scary guy, and I get that a lot of people like him. I wasn't in love with anybody, I would say, other than probably Sadness. I thought she's just a different character I was not expecting. I guess I was surprised by that character more than anything.
Yeah, no, she was a good character. I thought Marianne's backstory was pretty solid. In the terms of voice, though, oh my God, yeah, dude. It's just, you mentioned lack of elevation, and I think that's really where it hurt most, because the soundtrack, like, when it kicked up, at times I kind of dug it. But when it came to the voice acting, I'll always remember there's this one chase sequence. I'm sorry, I need to give this specific reference out. There's a chase sequence that occurs, and Marianne's running away, and she says, "Oh God, no!" But she says it like, "I just stubbed my toe," like, "Oh God, no!" And I'm like, "But you're being chased by this hulking creature,
like Hitman 47 being chased."
Yeah.
Oh God, no.
Yeah, dude, it's insane.
I know the exact part you're talking about.
And
like
it's just, to me, I was, that doesn't fall, by the way, on the talent. Most times that's on the director creating the moment.
No, that's the writing. Yeah.
And it's up to them to translate to the actress or actor what is happening in that sequence and how they need to behave. And so it just was not delivered to her properly, clearly, because she just sounded, like I said, like worried, like, someone threw up on the floor or something like that. And she's like, "Oh God, no." So, yeah, man.
Sounded like somebody's grandmother when you spill some lasagna. It was like, oh God, no. It wasn't like, this is a demon. Oh, fuck, dude, because I'd be squirting shit. Like, as I was running, I'd be like, "Oh my God, no!" Like, that's when you'd see me giving some emotion, and instead... And the Maw at that time was probably the best delivery of vocals, strangely enough, was just when he's chasing, because that's the first time you really hear him, and some of the stuff he says something about naked. Like, there's some weird shit with that character at first. I actually, I thought that was the starting of something good. It unfortunately didn't really roll that way. She was fine, but she was wishy-washy, or sing-song is sort of what I call it, where, like, up and down at the wrong times.
Gotcha.
Where you're like,
that's a good term.
And, dude, I said this in the review. I'm like, she's more excited about finding fucking bolt cutters than passing through into another universe. And I'm not lying.
Yeah.
When people are playing this, she'll be like, "I need a cat." to go through this mirror into another universe. And then she's like, fuck bolt cutters!
Yeah.
And you're like,
you're so right,
what is happening? Dude! It's so crazy. It's so crazy, man.
I know.
You know, again, all on the... that's all on the writers, because if you know those, especially her, I've checked her out and some other stuff. She's really good.
What is she in?
McFlyin, McGolden, something. She's in some indie games, and I hadn't Cindy McFlyin or something like that. It's almost an Irish kind of name, and I saw that he was doing it. And then I don't know. Well, did you know? I mean, I can say this because this isn't a spoiler. They sing together.
Yes.
Her and Troy Baker.
Yeah.
And I thought that was very cool. Like there was, and there's reasons why. Like that, the end part, there was some cool parts at the end, I guess.
Yeah, but it's one of those too little too lates. Absolutely.
Oh, dude. Yeah.
Yeah, dude. I was...
Oh, and Control. We just got to say one thing. I got to ask you.
Oh, go for it.
Did it feel like there was a 17-minute delay in movement, or was it just the way...
I had tested it to the camera angles. So for those who don't know anything about the medium, it's like Resident Evil's older titles where you got fixed camera angles. And
right.
I thought it was just because I would get turned around a lot because the camera would just keep flipping. They said they did this because... And they originally had a movable camera, and they said it was just because that people were getting motion sickness, which I believe in the dual reality section, but there's hardly any, so why not a controllable camera in certain segments and then none in the dual reality, so you feel maybe confined. But yeah, I did struggle with the controls. The button presses were responsive because they were very rare, but yeah, when you were walking around, when I went to like quickly turn, like I walked through a doorway, camera fixed, and I'm like, no, other way. Like, yeah, it just...
Yeah, old Resident Evil, by the way.
Yeah.
Anybody who's played an old-ass Resident Evil knows what we're talking about with the camera that suddenly decides, by the way, this happens, it decides left is right and right is left because you've moved into a different camera view. There's this one time where I'm going left, and it goes in, and I got confused in real life because now I'm pressing the opposite way on the mouse, and on the gamepad, and she's moving, and I start doing that thing where I start second guessing, and I'm like, is she slowing down?
Yeah.
And then I reversed, and then she turns, and I'm like, oh my God, my brain was all backwards. I was like, dude, and I had to like pause for a second and be like, all right, let's restart this and move around again. So it's good to know I wasn't the only one who had that.
Do you want to see more from this series is the real question. They've done Blair Witch, they've done Observer, they've done Layers of Fear, now they're doing the medium. I mean, like, I don't know. It just seems like they're just trying to find something that sticks.
And Observer, you did. So Observer you liked, and I didn't.
So
right?
no, I was actually wrong. I was thinking of a completely different game. I'm trying to remember. It's the one where you can manipulate cameras on like a space station. That's kind of derelict.
Okay,
that's the one I was thinking of. That was I'd never played
like
Observer.
A1 or there was So Observer is the one with the actor.
I've seen
dude
gameplay,
who played in Blade Runner.
First person.
Yeah, so that one is okay. That one's pretty good to okay, depending. And obviously held up by a great voice actor. And then Layers of Fear, #1 was pretty okay, but #2 just fell to the wayside really bad. And I know a lot of people really dislike #2. And then now you have this. I personally have no issue with them revisiting this world or going back to Observer or whatever. I don't really want to stop any developer from trying again. I just, I think if they want to sell the dual world, they have to do something with it, and nothing was done. Yeah. And I got some people mad at me because they were like, it's doing this behind the scenes, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, here's the thing. It could be simulating the entire universe behind the scenes, but if it doesn't work, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Like, that's just waste. Now we've even wasted now in a way, it's almost worse by saying that. It's like, you know how, have you ever like, not succeeded and then pretended you didn't try?
Yeah.
Like you'd be in a race, you'll lose, and you'd be like, wasn't really trying. It would have been better had they done that. Instead, it's like, oh man, we tried really hard. So I would like to see more underworld like locations and stuff. I did sort of dig those locations, and I like the masks. I thought it was cool to like put people's lives back together, their memories. You had to get the masks and put it on the person and sort of remind them of who they were, so that they could, there was go to heaven.
There was good themes in there, and I just don't think one of the first themes they introduced in the beginning of the game was kind of the idea of being able to say those final words, and I feel like they just immediately ditched that interesting, heart-touching theme to just chase down this weird rumor. Now, here's the thing. I wanted to ask you this as well. because I don't know if you came to the same conclusion, but did you realize for about, and this is half the game at this point, for like about 4 hours, she's just wandering around this resort out of sheer morbid curiosity?
Yes.
Like,
no, dude, I talked about it. I couldn't even figure out why she went in the first place. She just sort of says, I'm going, and starts talking about Thomas.
Yeah, she's like I got a phone call. And it just felt different. And she stays at this resort that clearly nothing is right here. And I know sometimes horror, you got to go against the grain a little bit to like get them in the door to the scary stuff. But of course, there's none of that. But yeah, there's no logical reasoning or ability to suspend your disbelief. She just walks in there and just goes, all right. I mean, it's one of those things that people are going to fight us on.
Go ahead.
No, I was just saying, it's one of those things where I was already getting some fight on it. People were telling me like, oh, it can't be that bad. And I'm like, I'm not saying it's a bad game. It's just a boring game. It's a boring game.
I would assume that if somebody plays that all the way through and tries to tell me, I would assume that the feedback will stop pretty quickly. Nate,
I mean, I don't care. I mean, it's one
I
of those
know
things
my
where...
personal game like friends and stuff, and I usually know what they're gonna like, and like to a person, they were like, okay, this is not gonna work out.
Yeah.
Like this is not for me. And they got bored on more action-packed games, like Observer, for instance.
Okay,
like,
oh boy.
That had 10 things going for them. So, but I will say with this game, I firmly believe this happened, and I know it's not right, but it feels this way. The starting feels like the ending in this game. And the reason why is because the starting has the cutscene and has this emotional feeling of like helping people get the last words in, and it's the only poignant part in the game.
Mm-hmm.
It is the weirdest experience, and we are talking about that first cutscene.
Yeah,
the first, and I was like, oh wow, okay, and I wasn't like in love with it. I was like, I get the gist, and like you said, dead, never happens again.
Mm-hmm.
And so it almost felt like, what if she had instead been? What if the original plot was like her having to go in there so that she could do that? Because it doesn't feel right. It feels like something George Lucas edited, right? You're all, why is he burned and then he falls in the fire? Yeah. Like, what's going on? Time isn't working right. So I don't know.
Well, unless you have any additional thoughts, I'm sure that's enough on the medium. I think we've...
Game Pass.
Yeah.
That's my only thought.
Yeah, I was going to say, Game Pass, if you really want to give it a try, but I said in my review, there's a number of games. We do one every week, a Game Pass pick, and I that segment is a testament to, like, I will have 20 other games I will suggest to you on Game Pass before the medium comes into the conversation.
How many games are on Game Pass now? Because I would suggest
100.
all of them.
Over 100. Oh, my God, all of them.
I'm just joking. I just wanted to piss somebody.
All right. Thank you so much for sitting through our medium discussion. We hope you enjoyed, and please do give us feedback if you feel it's necessary, as we're going to be doing more of that with, say, a Halo Infinite and other Xbox exclusives that come out this year. Yeah. Every exclusive except the gunk. I'm not going to allow that. All right. Let's get into it.
I'm not even allowed. I'm not allowed.
It doesn't exist.
He's like, I'm not even allowing.
It doesn't exist.
Yeah, not even talking about it. Not a thing.
All right. So like I said, we got 3 big bits of news this week. We have a list of like 6, I think, but we have 3 big bits of news that can easily be number 1. So let's get into it. A lot of people want us to talk about this one. Last Friday, Xbox attempted to pull a fast one by swiftly upping the price tag of Xbox Live Gold. In a post suspiciously written by the Xbox Live Gold team, which contrasts all previous write-ups indicating a expected blowback, Xbox revealed plans to increase 1 month of Xbox Live Gold to $11, 3 months to $30, and half a year to $60. Current Xbox Live Gold members would be able to renew at their current price and not the new one. With the writing being ever so clear on the wall, it was also revealed that customers would be able to convert their Xbox Live Gold membership to Game Pass Ultimate free of charge. Massive backlash spread across the internet due to this going against the image Microsoft had built over years. Later that same day, Xbox reversed course as they, quote, saw an opportunity to bring Xbox Live more in line with how we see the player at the center of their experience, end quote. Interestingly, Xbox Live Gold is now better off than it was before said backlash. You can convert your Xbox Live Gold to Game Pass Ultimate, and the lock on free-to-play games via the Gold membership has been removed, benefiting Halo Infinite's multiplayer down the line. Games with Gold also saw an increase to 5 games, at least this month. Those games are Gears of War 5, Resident Evil Remaster, Dandara Trials of Fear Edition, Indiana Jones and the Emperor's Tomb, as well as Lost Planet 2. Now, we got a lot of write-ins about this because, of course, this was the major Xbox happening. Matthew David is our first write-in. It is a bit of a mouthful, but I think it's an important perspective to bring into the fold before we discuss. He says, "Hey guys, loving the show," and I literally exclaimed "finally" numerous times during episode 0 when I heard both of you give opinions in direct contrast to Colin and Chris's takes on some Xbox issues. I had a comment on the inevitable live discussion. Lost in all the current talk and opinions that I've seen, people seem to forget that Microsoft discontinued 12-month cards sometime back in 2020. I'd be curious to hear how the full sequence of events impacts your analysis of the current situation. Price per month for new users was essentially made to be $10 a month before the series' launch. It seemed to me at the time that the goal was to push people into the better deal, which was Game Pass Ultimate, but the pitchforks weren't out then. Yet, they come out and essentially say it's still about $10 a month, or you can buy $120 a year and it finally gets attention. I think $10 a month is bad pricing no matter what. I think $10 a month, is bad pricing no matter what. Frankly, so is $60 for Live and PS Plus, in my opinion. Game Pass Ultimate is the only subscription that I feel truly has good value for me. But this is a hell of a way to convince Microsoft, or this is a hell of a way to convince people of that. So, besides removing $60 retail cards from store shelves, what was the purpose in discontinuing all long-term subscriptions this summer? Were they testing the market and the lack of the response made them think this was a good idea? Were people just not paying attention? Were they also hopeful that Live would just be extinguished? Would Microsoft have just been better off never doing annual subs of Live again and just going with 1 to 3 month pricing? Just food for thought. Keep up the great work. So like I said, mouthful there, but I think the last bit of Microsoft saw that people didn't respond to the annual cards being removed. I think what kind of happened here was a mix of two things, right? I think this was, number one, Microsoft seeing what they could get away with. Plain and simple. They did a little Cyberpunk experiment here. How far can we go? How far will our consumers let us bend before they break? And they saw. The other thing is Microsoft seemingly is very much driven by data, right? They're constantly doing essays, research. We talked about in our first episode how they were doing research on the response to DualSense and should Microsoft adopt those features. So they're always checking in with their consumers. I think based off their removal of those annual subscriptions and a lack of response there, that really wasn't anything that gathered stories across the board because the pricing was the same. And I think more people care about money at the end of the day. But honestly, I think their data suggested, hey, people didn't respond to this at all. So I don't think they're going to respond to other changes. Now, they're not really factoring in a human element there. Like, hey, more money means more people will complain. But I thought this was just a good place to start things off. What did you make of this back and forth that happened with Microsoft?
I got to admit, this will probably be mostly you because I didn't really catch up to it until after it had gone back and forth to where it is now.
Okay.
And so knowing what they did, I'm a big believer that most of the time a company won't make themselves look bad to look good later. Usually PR would never take the risk because you can't control things. So the idea that like it was a big plan, I get it. And it's always best to believe in the Illuminati, you know, the people under the fucking bridge having a meeting in their coven, but probably not. It's in fact, bet on stupid, right? More than betting on, you know, some ulterior
galaxy
motive.
brain plan.
Yeah.
They're like, we got this.
That is what happened. Like, yeah, when I read it all, I was like, whoa, they were trying to do what? And then of course you look at all the other subscriptions, you see the stuff and you're like, why are they doing any of this? And then they switch it back. So I don't really have anything other than it turned out better than it was, which is cool.
Yeah.
But it also indicates they still have a problem on their side with the pricing for that, which should be 0.
Yeah,
technically.
I agree.
It should just be ultimate and just be like, if you want our services, I mean, I get why they don't, but I also don't get why they do.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Yeah, it's tough because we have some numbers we're going to be looking at in a couple of stories here that'll definitely resurface this discussion on why Xbox Live.
Those numbers.
Yeah, so
true.
It's clear why they don't want to get rid of gold because it's just so much monthly revenue on the table. But at the same time, I feel like you look at Game Pass Ultimate and it is only growing. It has grown even more, which we'll highlight in this episode. And so I get their idea of trying to push people into the better value package, which is inherently going to net them more money, right? Instead of having 100 million Xbox Live users, you have 100 million Game Pass Ultimate users. And that, I think, can come over time if they start to move into the smart TV apps and all of that, where people can sign up with ease and just have a controller and a TV.
True.
When it comes to this situation here, though, I definitely think they anticipated blowback strictly because of the way the article was written. Like I said, you can look at any Xbox News article, and it will always come from a very specific person with their job position there. This did not have that. It's clear as day that they knew that something was going to go south here, but they wanted to do what we saw Cyberpunk do and CD Projekt Red. They wanted to see, from my interpretation, how far could they take things. They've earned years of goodwill, and they're not saying, let's just work everyone over here. But essentially, their actions do suggest that. They tried to see what they could get away with, and they've learned. Phil Spencer went on Twitter and said, we've learned a valuable lesson, and we will learn from this. So hopefully it's only going up from here. But it was strange because it was another situation within the last 2 months where we've seen two companies with great public images betray consumer trust in a way. Now, fortunately, Microsoft was quick to switch back, listen to feedback, remove that lock on free-to-play games, and ultimately they're in a better place. But I feel like really listening is when they are in a financially comfortable position, which Microsoft as a whole is, by the way. But when they feel it's financially feasible for them to let go of gold, even if it's a little bit early, I hope they do that. Because that was the main feedback, I think, was not really the free-to-play lock. People were saying that was part of it, but it was really that gold should no longer exist. PlayStation Plus, it should no longer exist. Game Pass Ultimate makes sense. It's really where the future is. I'm sure PlayStation's going to try something on their own at some point in time to combat with Game Pass, because I think they see maybe what Microsoft is heading towards and how that's going to expand and the exposure that a lot of studios are going to receive. And so I just think this was a case of, can we make a little more money? Because here's the thing, right? I mentioned 100 million users for Xbox Live. Now, not all of those are gold members, but let's say 90 million of them are, okay? They add an extra $1 a month just for the $1 subscription. Or I'm sorry, for the 1 month subscription. That's 90 million extra dollars a month. Like, they have such a large pool that $1 makes that big of a difference to their bottom line. That's huge. Now, Microsoft as a whole is very big. Xbox made a lot of money this last number of months. So just know that this was a purely for-profit play to see how far they could take things. Now they know, and they know the feedback will be swift. And now also the expectation is that we want, whenever Microsoft has a misstep, that quick response that we saw in the past. And we've seen that with Halo Infinite when they got involved with that. We saw it here with the Xbox Live Gold. I'm just tired of
I'm going to tell you right now, it's the... Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say, I'm just kind of tired of... Those are two situations there, and the reason I brought them up is just because, it's that try something, pull back. Like, sorry. Like, they tried to see what they could get away with. They were ready to launch Halo Infinite. And the people responded negatively, and they went, okay, we're delaying it. Like, feedback is important, but I'm kind of tired of the pattern of you have to make the mistake first. Like, there's got to be some foresight and some true knowledge of a gaming audience here on what people will expect, what people will work with, what people will understand. Like, I think if they said we're adding $1 to Game Pass, I don't think anyone would bat an eye. In fact, they'd just be like, this is to be expected. Sorry, what were you about to say?
I'm just a little surprised they haven't switched it all into a tiered, like silver, bronze, gold kind of thing.
Yeah.
And just merge them and just be like, it's silver, it's just Game Pass, or sorry, just games with gold, and there's no ultimate, and then silver's this, and then gold is all of it. Mm-hmm. And it because games with gold is already confusing, the name, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. I would say it's a little bit different because they're not going from 0 to 100. They're going from a certain amount of money to more money. So it's a stupid play, but I do think the one place where we see a strength of being an American company is quicker turnaround than a Japanese company, because they are notoriously slow at taking in input of complaints, and especially Sony, for No Man's Sky took like twice as long to do returns than Microsoft, and that seems to sort of be the thing when it comes to like returns or stuff like that when there's issues. Of course, Microsoft got burned by Red Ring. Maybe that's why they do it. But Nintendo doesn't do quick, neither one of those Nintendo just now, as of yesterday or today, is doing the Joy-Con drift lawsuit. It's or just finally getting in trouble from the European Union. And that's how long has the Switch been around? 4 years?
Yeah, since 2017.
Yeah. So, it was stupid, but to me, this was just a faux. I mean, it was a faux pas. It was a dumb one, and it makes you wonder. But
yeah, like, I don't want to brand Xbox in the end.
We got out of it better.
Yeah, we did.
No, I mean it is a negative, but it's like they made this. I mean, if they're gonna respond. I get what you mean by not wanting them to make a mistake, but it's like the difference between other companies that make one and then hold to it versus this. At least we have
for
this.
sure. The outcome here was better. And yeah, I guess to further clarify, what I mean by that is I don't mind mistakes. I'm not the second you, like, I had people commenting on my video and tweeting me just like, all right, Microsoft's done for the generation for me. I'm like, okay, come on. Like, let's relax.
Right.
You know, that's a little, I think, I think people are almost looking, I don't want to say, because it sounds like I'm getting defensive of them, but it almost felt like a looking for a mistake to be made to say something like that.
I'll say it.
Yeah, it's just I know it just looked like that to me for some people out there. The swift response is exactly what you want. I just, like I said, I guess it's because it was twice in the last half a year or so between Halo and this. It's I'm kind of tired.
And I'm the
first
one to tell you all the time that a company usually won't make a huge change unless they have numbers to support it. So then you have to go, if they did, those numbers were fucking wrong, or they were based on something weird. So, like, I'm also telling you all the time, it's like, well, they, if they made the decision, they thought it was going to work out. And it's like, we don't want them to, if this is the kind of decision we're seeing supported by numbers, that sucks. Because we don't want to see that continually. I don't think there's other places they could do that. But, no, I get you. I get you. It was stupid, but, it was dumb.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no real positive about it other than we got somehow positive at the end. We got a better deal. So,
yeah. Tickets for Ricketts writes in, hey, Five Guys Strangler and Matty.
Tickets for Ricketts. Wow.
Yo.
Wow. Dropping the old disease. The disease tag.
Will Game Pass last a generation? The doubling of Xbox Live Gold seems out of nowhere without the context of Game Pass's lost launch sales. It's like slashing someone and then immediately putting a tourniquet on them. While Microsoft could afford to take the hit, I wonder, as bigger exclusives hit the service, we won't see similar, seemingly out-of-nowhere decisions. P.S. Thanks, Karak. I'm thoroughly enjoying Ruiner due to your review.
You're welcome. Yeah, no, I don't think it'll go away.
I don't think so either. I don't think so either.
Dude, well, and we'll talk. We'll explain why here in a bit when we look at their numbers.
It's not going anywhere. That's a little tease for
dude,
2 stories
I don't think people realize when we get to their numbers, that's like small countries' gross national products numbers that they're doing.
Yeah.
Like, it's ridiculous. So, anyway.
Number 2 on our list, most exciting one for me, but we have to be realistic with our show. We had to talk about gold first. In a stroke of pure magic, it appears Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic may be making a return. Rumors began swirling via the B.O.B. podcast, where Bespin Bulletin had stated a new Knights of the Old Republic game is in development. Even more exciting, it is not with EA. Quote, amongst my digging, I heard there was a new Knights of the Old Republic project in development somewhere, Bespin Bulletin said. Quote, I talked to a couple of people, and I also found out that Jason Schreier said it's not with EA, and will never guess who the studio is that's making the game, end quote. During January of 2020, reports had surfaced that Knights of the Old Republic was receiving a reboot. That report arrived via Cinelinx. Quote, according to one source, the previously mentioned Knights of the Old Republic remake is back in development. My other source added that they felt it wasn't so much a remake, but a sequel of sorts. It would be a Knights of the Old Republic project that would integrate elements from the first 2 games in order to bring certain things into the current Star Wars canon. Not necessarily a remake so much as a reimagining, end quote. Now, while I personally had reported on my YouTube channel an email Jason Schreier had sent me and given me permission to share 10 months ago that the next KOTOR game, whatever it is, will not be handled by EA, I also wanted to add some of my own scoops from 2 sources I trust to put on top of all this. Furthermore, I did contact Jason about the recent surge in stories and if there were any developments whatsoever, and he actually said he was surprised by this and that he hadn't said anything new since we last spoke. So just keep that in mind there, that this may be very well, as I had suggested, the same story I reported through Jason 10 months ago. So when it comes to my sources, the first thing that they told me was development's coming along well. It's highly likely we will see an announcement this year, so be prepared for that. Unfortunately, due to COVID, it's also possible that setbacks can occur, and this can also be inferred by the Lucasfilms games write-up where they said that They will be announcing more Star Wars projects this year, so this is likely one of them. The second is a source said that it may not be the KOTOR we know, which is just like what Cinelinx had suggested. They said that it rather may be the aptly named, quote, High Republic, end quote. The High Republic is set 200 years prior to the prequels. Meanwhile, the Old Republic is thousands of years ago in a galaxy far, far away. To add more to the KOTOR pot, back in May of 2019, it was said that Knights of the Old Republic would be hitting big screens in some way thanks to BuzzFeed. When Kathleen Kennedy was inquired about this, she said, quote, yes, we are developing something to look at right now, but I have no idea where things may fall, end quote. The movie is reportedly being written by Laida Kalogridis, who worked on the insanely underrated Alita Battle Angel, most recently, as well as Shutter Island and Altered Carbon. Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic launched exclusively on Xbox July 19th, 2003, before coming to PC on November 19th of that same year. A year later, Obsidian Entertainment created Knights of the Old Republic 2, which launched December 6th, 2004, and came to PC February 8th, 2005. You can play both Knights of the Old Republic titles via backwards compatibility on Xbox, and in 2015, Knights of the Old Republic 2 received a major PC update via Asper Media that included controller support, Steam Mod Workshop, widescreen support, and much more. Both games are also available to play on the app stores via your smartphones or tablets, and those ports were also handled by Asper. Breath. Matthew Mandela writes in, hello, gentlemen. First, you guys are killing it with this show, loving this content. Second, as a fellow KOTOR lover, how does this series come back in a good and meaningful way? Do you rehash the same stories and characters? Do you shoehorn in the new High Republic stuff? Should the combat system change? I'm excited, but also nervous. How would you two bring this series back? Thanks. Karak, I've certainly run my mouth enough here. This is all you, brother.
I don't know about the 10-month thing. I would have to talk to you off camera. Or you, if it's short, you can explain it. But basically, all I can say is prior to their podcast, I tweeted about a weird DM I had gotten that was like, and it was weird because it was out of the blue and it was from somebody that I've not dealt with. But then somebody else said, this person is real. You want to DM about something? And it was about Star Wars. But I'm probably just don't have the like, you've been in the deep RPG landscape way longer than me. I don't have any real contacts for that unless they're at the company, which I don't, apparently. I did hear a company name, which is not beyond guessing, by the way, which I found very odd. And then I saw somebody else say that a couple days ago and then delete their tweet. I don't know if you saw that.
Tom Warren.
I think it was yeah, somebody tweeted and said, no, you can probably guess it, and then deleted the tweet. And like, that's what I was told too, was like the name of the company. I was all, oh, well then why are people saying, but anyway, long story short, there's a couple things out there. It was weird to me because I just said, whoa, I got a weird DM. If that's true, shit's going to hit the fan. And then I went to sleep and didn't really think much about it. I thought it was sort of, you know, sometimes you'll get that person who pretends to be multiple people and they're throwing out like news. So I didn't, and I don't get those scoops very often. So I just sat on, I usually get friends being like, hey man, we're working on this. And
oh yeah, lucky you.
But what I was told, what I was told doesn't jive with Old Republic. It jives with High Republic.
Yep. That's what I heard too.
And that it would be like a Knights of the High Republic.
Yep.
Now, if that, okay, so if that turns out to be true, yeah, digital fist bump. If that turns out to be true, right? I think that fits even a little bit more than Old Republic, not because you can't do Old Republic later, you can, but it would tie in with what they've got going on, which is their novels, and their fear of getting too far away from Luke and Vader. And that would explain also the weird oddity I got about how it's going to mention these characters, but be nowhere near the time frame of these characters. And I was like, so what I'm assuming is it'll mention some kind of conflict and it will talk about like a Revan or a Malik maybe, and the old stuff as filtering prior to Luke and them. But I don't know much about 200 years prior to the Republic. Like, I don't know the High Republic time frame. I don't know.
And yeah, I mean, the knowledge is limited, right?
First novel came out. Yeah, knowledge is really limited. Like, so, and which, by the way, could be amazing.
Right.
Like, what if knowledge is limited because there's a filter on it because, like, some huge thing happened and, like, a Darth, you know, bad guy went out and, you know, made sure nobody could continue to tell people about him or something in Luke and Vader's time. Like, there's some cool shit.
Yeah, dude, so. I am beyond excited about this rumor, of course. For those who don't know and have just been introduced to us through this show, for me and Karak, Knights of the Old Republic are our favorite games of all time.
Yeah.
I adore this franchise. I freak out about it all the time. I play it every single year. It's like a tradition, and I've dedicated a ton of coverage on my channel to it. So yeah, seeing this was extremely exciting because it built on the previous reports that had come out. In answer to Matthew's question, how do we bring this back in a good and meaningful way? I know a lot of people want to see the Old Republic. I do too, because there is that ancient, unaware, almost political nature to it all that really I feel, because like when you look at any of the Star Wars movies, and they're all like kind of, we know everything, where there's a sense of figuring things out with the Old Republic that I really like, and especially that's represented in things like the armor they wear, this heavy metallic stuff, that using vibro swords, that type of stuff.
Yeah,
just really is awesome, combining that with, of course, lightsabers, and especially because you don't begin, at least in the first one, as a Jedi. I love that shit. Like, I love that they kind of embrace the side that isn't about just Jedis right off the bat. And so I think you bring that back by maybe there's a vein in the Old Republic that could kind of go through time a little bit, and we could see that appear in the High Republic and have it make sense. Certainly, without spoiling anything, in the Revan book, which is kind of the conclusion to the whole KOTOR series, which is written by the main writer of KOTOR 1, maybe there are some really super powerful figures introduced in that book.
Yeah.
And maybe you carry something like that into High Republic. I like this, though, because for me personally, what excited me about the Old Republic was, as a kid, it's what got me into Star Wars. I didn't like Star Wars, and then I played the Old Republic, and that's kind of what jived with me. The excitement comes from the idea that maybe if this is, like we've been told, Knights of the High Republic, that it'll jive with people in a way that it did for us. It'll be a lot of people's first time getting into Star Wars. And if they maintain that spirit of KOTOR, this could be great. This is still, like I mentioned, 200 years prior to the prequel. I share Matthew's nerves as well. Of course, this can go a number of ways. But I know you've maybe heard some names, but do you have some guesses on who might be doing this? Or should I just handle all that so you don't divulge any specific studios? Because I don't know. Pondering, thinking. Stealing.
Yeah, I don't even want to put it in chat.
Okay.
Because can I put it? Oh, do we have Discord? Yeah, you can handle it. My shit's not going to show up if I type it to you, right?
No.
Can we open chat on this thing?
Before Karak sends anything, I'm going to go ahead and just suggest Asper Media, because they've handled a lot of the KOTOR ports. They're currently developing a AAA RPG and have hired a ton of BioWare vets from BioWare Austin. This was previously the studio that, when a lot of KOTOR reboot rumors surfaced back in 2016 and 2017, that Jason Schreier had said that project had been put on stasis. It was at that studio, BioWare Austin. So a lot of that staff has migrated to lead positions over at Asper Media.
Oh, very cool.
So that would be my major
they've
pick.
handled all the patches and stuff. Yeah. People don't realize Asper is in, we've talked about, I think when I first started the channel, for some reason we talk, or not channel, but your podcast, we talked about Asper because they are a huge support studio as well.
Yeah.
Doing side stuff. You find them in all different stuff. So I was just told that name as somebody to watch for. And then I can't say the other stuff, but
I will also put out there
People will
spiders.
probably think I'm being a jerk, but I'm not.
No, I get it, though.
I don't want to do. Matty can do videos because he's more of the like fucking. This is KOTOR's my favorite thing. The reason why I don't talk about this stuff is because I don't want to be the guy who does say something and somebody's like, haha, we set him up. So it's like I'm ultra cautious about anything. Sorry, what were you saying?
No, I was just going to suggest as well that it could be spiders as just as a cool guess.
Oh, God. That would be so weird to see spiders, right?
Yeah.
Dude, it could
fit.
Spiders with some money, it could fit really well. It could fit really well. And High Republic, Matty, we have no clue. what I mean, I don't, at least. I don't know how the Jedi were set up. I don't know how the fucking Sith were set up. I don't even know like where technology was. You know how technology in that world sort of stays the same. Like Coruscant in KOTOR is like how many thousands of years prior, and then you look at it and you're like, yeah,
pretty familiar.
Sort of the same.
Yeah, you're right.
It's pretty, and it's like a lot of the same planets, and you're like, seriously, we can't get 200 years before America self-detonating. Like, I don't know how these races last this long. The reason why High Republic interests me is because, dude, you could do shit where you set up, let's say you're making the show, the movie, the game, whatever, and you find out people are liking the High Republic, you roll it into like, you know, the future stuff, which is like Plagueis and all that kind of stuff, or just how Coruscant will look at that point. And let's say a lot of people are really chomping at the bit for Old Republic. Suddenly you start mentioning Revan and Malak, and now you can do an Old Republic game.
Yeah.
Like there is some flexibility, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but the idea of a High Republic game is sort of exciting.
Yeah. I'm reading the Light of the Jedi book right now. So because I already had interest prior to all of this, just because it's a new era of Star Wars, and I'm like, okay, I kind of want to get into this early on, and I've never really done that because there's like so many comics and books, and you can just go anywhere. And a lot of them, like you said, are tied somehow to like the Skywalker saga. And I've kind of just had my fill of that. So for me, plus just having something Republic in your name, just it really attracts me. I'll be completely honest. So I've only just started reading that. I only read a couple of chapters, not enough to give a thought piece here on.
You know what's
the
sort of a sign of something that's going on though, Matty?
What's up?
LucasArts authorized the special forces that are used, the special force powers that are used in that book.
I'm telling you, man. Yeah, I'm telling you.
Something weird's going on, because they specifically, there's a force power in there that is quite a lot like some stuff in KOTOR, which is not in. And LucasArts stated that stuff that's in there is canon. And when you see it, I'm sure you'll know what I mean. But when you start reading it, you'll be like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Because it's not a small thing. It's not like different colored force lightning. It's like a big thing. And you're like, oh, wait. Okay, so this means there is some huge connection. It almost feels like a bridge. It's like, if we release this book, it's a good bridge between Knights of the Old Republic, the way LucasArts may want to do it, but with their slight adjustments, obviously.
Yeah.
In the end of Revan, which I haven't read Revan, so the end of Revan, which ending, I'm sure this won't ruin it for anybody, this is fucking ages ago, but Revan, which ending did they choose for the book for Revan? Good or bad? Was Revan good or bad?
Light side.
So, okay. So Revan was light side in that that's canon at that time.
Yeah. Yeah, because he romances a particular character and lives with that person. So
yeah, I was just wondering how they would, High Republic, if because they did talk about Plagueis in the later ones, which was older. They talked about, they didn't mention like Tulak Horde or anything. They don't mention those guys, do they? In the new movies? No, they don't mention that kind of ancient shit.
Another thing worth noting is, I think it was The Last Jedi had like an art book come out, and they had the Knights of Revan.
Yes!
The Knights of Revan or whatever. Yep. Yeah, and I was like, Sith Lord. So all I'm saying is like Knights of the High Republic hunting the Knights of Revan or something like that. I don't know, man. I don't know. There's a lot of avenues. They're unlocking a couple of subtle doors, and with all of that disregarded, you just got to take one look at the movie rumors, a trilogy, which Star Wars loves their trilogies. Game rumors have circled for years. Now we have suddenly this new Republic type of thing. And then we combine the force powers and some of the other pieces we're putting together here, like these subtle
there's
doors.
A lot going on. It's obvious something's happening. It's obvious.
And if that's not enough, the fact that Kathleen Kennedy is like, we talk about KOTOR all the time and we're trying to figure something out. Like they're fucking looking. So I have no doubt in my mind that this is something that will happen, and I'm sure it'll happen sometime this year. Announcement, I mean. It's just really a matter of when. So we also have one other question from Matthew Armelli. Hey, boys. So Disney is freeing up the Star Wars license and allowing the return of KOTOR. Disney was quick to put a tight leash on Star Wars lore when they bought out Lucas. They scrubbed basically anything Legends and wanted to run everything through a narrow pipe, probably why it was easy for EA to bamboozle them into an exclusive deal. On the other hand, Games Workshop and their Hammer 40K IP get a lot of flack for basically shilling it off to anyone to use. Do you think a similar fate awaits Star Wars games now, or will they be able to maintain a high bar of quality?
No. Yeah. It's identical. Games Workshop was the exact same way as Star Wars, and they got shit because they only had a couple people developing. Games Workshop has done this twice now, gone the full circle, where they were tight, Then they were like, okay, we'll let people do it. And then it was a disaster after a while. And then they were tight again. And now it's back to open again. So I think I could see Star Wars doing that. But, you know, I grew up, I don't know about you, I grew up with Star Wars. You know, you got your fucking stuff on Atari and then you've got your stuff on
it was everywhere.
SNES.
I think a lot of people forget that.
Yeah, and then you had the 2D ones, and you had, you know, then you have like your Rebel games on the GameCube, which, by the way, Microsoft, the story broke this morning, Microsoft did try to purchase the Rogue games from GameCube so that they were Xbox exclusives. Yeah. And they almost got them to do it, and then they were like, we have a deal with with Nintendo, and it failed right at the end. LucasArts and them. Yeah. So, I mean, it's I don't see it being an issue. Just control what the fuck you're doing. We don't see a ton of Marvel games. We see one bad Avengers, but I'm surprised we haven't seen. Well, we just see a lot of mobile games, but you know what I mean. I'm surprised the only good Marvel game got canceled, which was fucking Omega. Suck butts. Suck butts. That game is so good. It's still installed. Yeah. I'm never gonna uninstall it from my hardware.
I have confidence they'll bring back Marvel Omega. Just cause.
Yeah, oh, dude.
Just cause. Just cause.
I would. I gotta. Oh man, I would. If they did that, I would be so happy.
Yeah, dude.
So happy.
Of course. Number 3, this is the story we were alluding to during number 1. Microsoft published their fiscal year 2021 second quarter financial results, which goes from October to December of 2020 on January 26, 2021. And the numbers show Microsoft is more than fine. While there are more stats available, we honed in on what is happening within specifically the Xbox division. Xbox content and services revenue has increased by 40%. Xbox hardware revenue is up by 86%, of course, thanks to the console launch. Here's where it starts to get crazy. Microsoft put $15.5 billion in the bank just these last 3 months, okay? That is 2 Bethesdas. That is in the range of when they acquired Bethesda as well. $2 billion in revenue was generated from third-party titles on Xbox. There are currently 18 million Game Pass subscribers, which is a 3 million increase since the announcement of the intent to acquire ZeniMax. There's 100 million Xbox Live users on a monthly basis, and they expect the Series S/X supply to be constrained throughout the next quarter, so it still is going to be a little tough to get your Xbox. Anthony A. writes in, Xbox Bros. Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella revealed in an earnings call that Game Pass has 18 million subscribers and Live has more than 100 million active users. What do you guys think of, quote, them apples, end quote? Do the numbers surprise either of you in a positive or negative way? Would you expect more or less? Loving the show. Thank you, Anthony. So this, of course, has to wire itself back, in my opinion, to the Bethesda deal. A lot of people are very convinced Microsoft, Xbox specifically, need to make Bethesda games go to PlayStation to recoup assets for the money they spent on Bethesda. Is that still the case? Do they need PlayStation's hard-earned money? Because the argument I got was, dude, Matty, no. Here's why you're wrong. Xbox is a small division of Microsoft. They're a small division. I'm like, bro, they brought in $2 billion on third-party games. The fuck do you mean they're small? That $2 billion? What? 18 million Game Pass subscribers. That's a 3 million increase since Bethesda was acquired. I mean, come on.
Dude, people don't get it. They don't get that it's not a service that's staying. It's actually growing by 3 million. It's ridiculous.
And
it's beyond ridiculous.
Yeah.
And 5 stages of grief, right? That person's trying to talk, their own body into believing that they're going to somehow get those games. That's gone.
Nope.
It ain't happening, bro. Like, that's life. And that's something I had to deal with Sony buying everything up. Nintendo. Like, it's just, it sucks. And for the most part, it's always been, I think for the most part, for a lot of people, the big ones have been Sony. This will be the first one where it's, somebody else. Remember, Nintendo fans had to deal with this when Square jumped from Nintendo to Sony.
Yeah.
Square and Nintendo were fucking buddy, man. Like, they were like best bros. And when that changed, there were people who were just, I had a best friend who was a Nintendo freak. And when that, oh my God, was he livid. Like, livid. And you know me, I'm never livid about a game. I was just like, dude, what? No. I'd like be cooking chicken at my job and he'd be like, fucking Nintendo and I would just be like, dude, man. He's reading magazines which take 4 months to get to him. News is all fucking old. I don't know about you, dude. They're rolling in it. Like, what
yeah.
Like, what else is there to, like, to say. They're rolling in it.
Yeah.
Like and they're rolling in it because they're offering. That's one thing I can say about them too. Those deals that the amount of money that they're growing is commensurate with the amount of people I see talking about Game Pass.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
No,
like,
I get it.
I get it.
Mm-hmm.
They're the hot thing right now when it comes to like service.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it'll continue to grow as they just stay on the same pace, man. The price point with those exclusives. And I think this explains why, just from an Xbox front, why they're able to afford those deals of getting games day one, Game Pass, to keep that service afloat. The fact that it's growing is what's keeping it afloat too. So I don't think there's going to be really any changes to it. But I thought this was important also in contrast with our first news piece of the increase, or attempted increase, of Xbox Live Gold. Now we're seeing here that they are making quite a bit of money. So that kind of is why I was saying I feel like when you've got 100 million live users on a monthly basis, they were just seeing maybe what they could have gotten away with. Just my interpretation there, but they're doing very well.
The costs, employees cost more every month, and so does server. By the way, I'm not making excuses for
but you make a good point.
I'm sure that they look at those things because cost over year is always going to, most of the time, always increase. So I'm sure that to them it made sense. To us, it doesn't.
Right.
But I get why people are burned, and I get why people are surprised. But it is Microsoft. It's stupid because like I'll fucking wish. At times, I'll be like, I wish there was another OS because some Windows driver fucks up. And then I'm sitting back going, fuck, everything's Windows. Like, even when shit was PC exclusive, I remember people were like, haha, it's not on a console. And I'm like, dude, Windows is a console. Like, they still, it is. They still, out of just de facto, you're still, for the majority, playing it on their platform. You know, they did it a weird sideway that took years, but it seems like it's slowly paying off.
Man. So Microsoft's doing just fine. The rest of these stories, smaller ones, but still ones we wanted to talk about. So we'll probably fly through these. Number 4, despite adding a new button to the controller, the share/capture features for the Xbox remain underwhelming for Xbox players. Jason Ronald, director of program management for Xbox, took to Twitter to respond to the qualms fans have. Quote, "We have heard the feedback and are working on a number of improvements to the capture and share experience. Nothing to share yet, but a priority for the team," end quote, which it should be, of course, given social media. And I mean, I'm sorry, but PlayStation's got it right with that. That share button is fantastic. Just easy, pressing the button, no complex, broken apps. A lot of people I've learned this past week really don't like this thing and how it works.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so it's good that their improvements are coming and they've heard the feedback. I don't mean, have you messed with this at all? Because,
Yeah, I don't have any issues with broken. I have an issue with how long it records and the quality.
Yeah, that was one of the major ones.
I don't have an issue with the I don't use it on either, but when I was reviewing it, I was really impressed with the difference between Sony's and Microsoft's. That Microsoft seems like the company that would have had, I don't know if you remember, but I was sitting there going, what if you made a GamePass? What if you made an account on your Xbox X and suddenly it makes you a web page and it's like, here's Karak's web page, almost like the profile but online. And it's like you stream there, all this shit. It's almost like a mini, everybody has their own Twitch channel, but it's all through Microsoft. Like I had a bunch of ideas, and then, obviously fucking Mixer died. So maybe that's what their plans were. But dude, the share button on the Xbox is backwards compared to the original, which surprised me. I will say a little tech speak super short, but the SSD and trying to multiple write to an SSD is actually bad. They actually have a certain number of writes. And so I'm wondering, and in fact, I saw a tech guy say that Sony's is massive, and they were worried that over a long period of time, writing to a block like that will cause that block to go bad. And that's actually interesting. On Microsoft's standpoint, it's like, I wonder if something behind the scenes, they don't really want to make it, because it shouldn't be too hard to say, boom, we're going to take a little off the top from the fucking memory, and we're going to allow you to write a bigger one with better bit rate. But they haven't done that, which is so backwards compared to the Xbox One, which allowed you to do a ton of shit.
Interesting. This is a very good point.
Yeah, it's really sad.
We'll see where they go with it. Number 5. If you're looking for more Halo Infinite updates, you are in luck, as community director of 343 Industries, Brian Gerard, has confirmed that you're getting them each and every single month leading up to the launch of the game. On Reddit, in response to a fan's concern on the silence of the game, he said, quote, "We're committed to at least monthly high-level updates, and the next Inside Infinite is coming out this week." So, of course, next week on Defining Duke, we will be talking about this. This month, we're talking with members of the Sandbox team to share some insights into their vision for Halo Infinite and the work they're doing. To manage expectations, this won't have world premiere big screenshots or huge things like a date announce, but our goal is to offer our community more context and insights into our team and the game we're making, while we're all awaiting the larger beats in the full marketing machine later this year, end quote. Very transparent there. It's worth noting, due to the release schedule of our show, once again, that we'll be talking about this next week. So with that, Karak, we're getting more Halo Infinite news monthly. This one coming up isn't going to be that big.
He dropped that it was for the release later this year, which surprises me that he stated didn't he state at the very end of that something about later when we get to the game's launch later this year?
Yeah, he said. I copy pasted his quote from Reddit, which was when I actually found this. Wow. It was from a day ago. So unless he said something, he says to manage expectations, this won't have big world premiere screenshots or huge things like a date announce. You're saying he...
Yeah, but but continue reading. He says something along the lines of this will continue up until the release or something like that.
Our goal is to offer our community more context and insights into our team and the game we're making while we're all awaiting the larger beats and full marketing machine later this year.
This year.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. Do you see what I'm getting at?
Shit,
I'm stating he dropped, if you read it right, he dropped a later this year as probably unless they decide to release summer of next year or something like that. My assumption is that's pretty solid because he was usually you have to get that shit okayed to speak about it. So
interesting. Yeah, I didn't even catch that. That could. That's pretty. The later this year is different from a couple months from now, kind of.
Yeah, exactly. It seems like it's sort of locking it in for winter, which is good. Get it locked in and go from there.
Number 6, BioWare's art director has shared what could have been. While the RPG studio is mostly recognized for its work on the likes of Mass Effect and Dragon Age nowadays, they created a new Chinese steampunk RPG that had become a cult classic. That game is Jade Empire, and while BioWare has stated the sequel is, quote, never dead, end quote, it's hard to imagine it's making a return. To further rub salt in the wound, Matt Rhodes shared on his Instagram account a concept called Revolver, which originally began as a Jade Empire sequel before being shut down. The game was in development from 2005 all the way until 2008, so this was no small effort. Tons of artwork from the environments to character concepts, creatures, and more decorate the artist's Instagram to check out. John Kerry wrote in, guys, let's cycle back to Jade Empire. I shared Karak's empathetic yes when asked if he could only have one of the 3. Bring this game back. There has to be a way for Microsoft to pry that IP from the cold, skeletal hands of EA. Give it to Obsidian. Obsidian's the default studio, man. Have you noticed that? Everyone's
they are. Yeah,
give it to
noticed.
Obsidian. I hear it all the time.
That's why I keep saying people need to remember that Exile's there too.
100%.
There's some cool stuff that could be made.
Give it to Obsidian or another internal team and give us a proper remake/remaster and put it on Game Pass. I know everyone is stoked for Starfield and Halo Infinite, but Game Pass seems like the perfect place to bring back that classic BioWare style steampunk, mythic China, and magic martial arts. Low-hanging fruit, guys. That is a good point. Game Pass could make this a little more accessible than maybe the original Jade Empire was, but I would love to see more of this series. I really would. It'd be fantastic, but I don't know. To get it out of EA's hands and BioWare's hands, it still is an active trademark. They re-upped it a couple of years ago, and we thought more was happening. Yeah, they re-upped it, and I thought that they were going to do that.
Yeah, I do remember that.
Yeah, so just wanted to share that. Go ahead and look it up. Matt Rhodes on Instagram if you're curious about torturing yourself there. Number 7, and then we get into our Game Pass picks of the week. Sea of Thieves Season 1 has arrived. By the time you're at least listening to this on free feeds, if you're listening to this on Patreon, it's arriving January 28th, and you will have access to this new content. Players can now earn 100 levels of cosmetics on top of other in-game rewards merely by playing the game. Players will earn renown, promising you won't finish a session empty-handed, and this can be done by completing various objectives that have been added in. There are also trials packaged in here on top of, you likely guessed it, a plunder pass. This is a purchasable pass for $10, just $3 more than the price of a Five Guys cheeseburger, and will net you 11 more items. Damn, you didn't crack a smile at that. I was so happy with that writing.
No, but I heard it. I for sure heard it. I've sure heard
it. Rare has also promised new quality of life updates, a pirate emporium, and additional features, events, and voyages. will arrive to the game. Sea of Thieves released April 20th, 2017 on Xbox and PC before getting a 4K 60 FPS next-gen upgrade with the release of the Series X and 1080p 60 FPS on Series S. So more coming to Sea of Thieves. I recently downloaded this a couple weeks ago, and I got to say, really fun with a group of friends. Really good time. Have you ever used, when you played it, have you ever used the, they have that like microphone thing that you can yell into, and you can talk to other ships?
No.
Oh my gosh.
I don't even know what that is. No,
my friend was using it. He's like
a megaphone?
Yeah. And he's like, dock your ship immediately or we will fire. And yeah, just
that's awesome.
We followed the ship for an hour, man. It was so funny.
Awesome.
It was so funny. This game is great with friends.
It's one of the only games that now I have a little bit of FOMO with, a little bit of like feeling like I'm missing out, just a little bit, because it's had some crazy improvements. I did play it a couple months ago. Got pretty sick when I played it, so I was like, I just had forgotten to take the meds. A lot of motion in that game, and the way we played. And it's a little cumbersome now. I noticed, and I don't know if I wasn't doing it right, but like, you open the map and you have to look at it all the time, which then I think that's what was causing me to be a little ill.
Yeah.
Because I was like,
you have a still thing with movement in the background.
Yeah, it was, and now your FOV is this fucking big over the top of the map, But I mean, the game seems, it's one of the few that, like a No Man's Sky, where they've turned it all around.
Yeah, it's not one that like I'm gonna be glued to for a while, but for Game Pass, it's a perfect game. You just download it, play it for a night or two with some buddies, hop on it whenever. It's solid. All right, but that is it for the news for this week. Now we get into our Game Pass picks of the week. Karak, would you like to get it started?
Yeah, so picks of the week are for Game Pass, and then we do so. Get up.
Karak loves to build suspense.
Oh, no, that's us. That's us.
There we are.
Karak loves what?
Suspense, I said.
Yeah.
Building it up, building up.
So, Game Pass pick of the week. I want to make sure that I didn't mess up the backwards compatibility. I don't know why I kept thinking this game was also backwards compatible. But so my pick of the week would definitely be Void Bastards. Now, have you played Void Bastards?
No, I haven't. And I get it mixed up with Deep Rock Galactic like that. I don't know why. I feel like when I look at that cover art,
that's... Yeah. Dude, Deep Rock is good, but Void Bastards is phenomenal.
What is this game?
Phenomenal game.
I've
so
seen
basically,
it
it's a first-person shooter in cartoon style, so it's cel-shaded. It's like Borderlands, but it's roguelike. So you basically, your ship ends up going against a derelict, screwing into the side of a derelict, and then you go out and you try to salvage and take it home. And each time you die, basically a new copy of you comes out and takes on the job. The cool thing is when you start, every character has an auto generation, and you can have crazy shit like colorblind, which changes the entire world to black and white for the entire time you're playing, or dwarfism, which means you no longer have to fucking duck down to go under shit, but you can't see through doors and windows indoors to see if enemies are in there. It's phenomenal. It's the first game I've seen where they've used the shit. You know how when you duck in a game, you know exactly how deep you'll duck because you look at the geometry and you're like, I know that to get under this, I need to duck, or to get under that, I need to lay down.
Right.
Like if you have 3, because the geometry is made a certain way. So this game plays to that. And so the actual gameplay, you'll be running. And as a human, normally you could like run up to a door and look in through the window and go, there's bad guys over there. But as the dwarf, you can't. And so you have to figure out, do I want to go through this door? What if the bad guys are there?
Interesting.
And so this auto-generation thing, and then each time you go back to your ship, you basically can then construct all kinds of new weapons and all kinds of new stuff. And it's phenomenal. And there's a DLC, in fact, that came out, which I don't think I've played the DLC. But the main game, when that came out, it was like finally a game that took advantage of the auto-generation of characters to mean something. It wasn't like, you're a cleric. It was all, you're short.
It sounds like they took kind of what Rogue Legacy did and then put it in a more interesting gameplay loop, almost. I don't know if have you played Rogue Legacy?
Not that
It had like, when you say colorblind, that reminded me of that. It's like you're this legacy of people like in this castle, and each time you die, like you have a new kind of quirk. And so it kind of sounds like something along those lines.
And they can make impacts like that. Yeah, as long as they make gameplay impacts. There's one that like you have a third arm, so you can have another weapon instead of 2, like Halo. Like you will have 3. Like it's just weird. And it works, man. It works. And then everywhere you travel eats up gas from your ship. And then some places are good and some places are bad. Some places you can possibly go in and there'll be no enemies. Yeah, it is a phenomenal shooter, a cheap price. By the way, on a PC, runs at like 100,000 frames per second. I've never seen a game run. I think I was getting 650 frames per second.
Good Lord.
And it doesn't look bad, but I was getting 650 frames per second with the 2080 Ti. I'm pretty sure. I was just like, what the shit? Like, it's smooth. It plays well. Definitely worth getting.
That art style is fresh too. I looked that up while you were talking, and I was like, oh, I like that. It reminds me kind of I think
little Borderlands.
Yeah, that TMNT 2003, really weird callback though, but it kind of had that similar like boom when you hit someone and you saw like the little speech bubble pop or something.
Comic splash. Yeah.
That's a better term. Yeah, that type of stuff. That's awesome. So my Game Pass pick of the week, it's one I haven't played yet, but I want to call it out because it's a day one release. It just came out January 26th, and that is Cyber Shadow. So this is sort of a Ninja Gaiden, the kind of like futuristic style Ninja Gaiden, rather. The older Ninja Gaiden, by the way, not modern Ninja Gaiden like Sigma and whatnot. It's like the side scroller, but apparently from what I read from the reviews, which have been fantastic, this is published by Yacht Club Games, who's known for the Shovel Knight series. It doesn't have the hang-ups that a lot of old side scrollers kind of do nowadays. And I love this new era of side scrollers we have. Like The Messenger is one of my favorites ever, just because it's quirky, it's funny, but it has a really good gameplay loop. And it takes that, funny enough, dual reality gameplay, and it does something really meaningful with it, with its art style.
It actually does something.
Yeah, and it completely changes the environments and how you can explore. And so I really appreciate that. So for me, Cyber Shadow just looks like more of something along those lines. I just got to call it out because I think I'll be talking about this more in the coming weeks. I don't have much to offer on it because obviously, as you can tell, I haven't played it, but one that I think people should keep their eyes on if they're looking for a new side scroller, available day one Game Pass. Cool get for Microsoft. Brian Seals also wrote in Game Pass pick of the week. Says, hey guys, for your next backwards compatibility pick, I have to nominate Super Meat Boy. The levels are well crafted with unique challenges and new mechanics, keeping the gameplay fun and varied. I also found the difficulty curve to be spot on. If you've been a gold subscriber for a while, you probably already have this game in your library. If not, it's $15 on PC and Windows Store. So thank you, Brian, for writing in with your little suggestion there. Now we get into our PC deals of the week. Frank M. wrote in, since you guys talk about Xbox and are therefore closely associated with PC gaming, do you take advantage of the free games offered by Amazon Prime Gaming? I haven't heard anyone talking about this bonus to Amazon Prime, and I thought it would help spreading the word. So right now they are offering Along the Edge, Alt Frequencies, Bridge Constructor Playground, Void Bastards.
Void Bastards.
Holy shit. Look at that. And When Ski Lifts Go Wrong. I believe they're adding more monthly, but those are the 5 games available. So if you're on PC, you want some freebies with your Prime, which a lot of us are subscribed to because they just have that crazy shipping speed, you can get some games. Number 2, Fanatical, a store that sells licensed PC keys, which means that it's not like G2A where you don't know, has a huge PC gaming sale going on right now. You can get Dragon's Dogma Dark Arisen for $8. The XCOM 2 collection, I cannot speak right now. The XCOM 2 collection, which includes the base game, War of the Chosen expansion, and 4 DLC packs for $18. There's Resident Evil 3 Remake as well as the 2 Remake for $18. And Persona 5 Strikers, which is not even out yet, is available for $50, among many, many other deals. This is probably the sale you want to go ahead and look for right now on PC.
Yeah.
A lot of good options there. Not limited at all. Kind of like the Humble Winter Sale we talked about before. That one had like a 2K sale, Warner Bros. Sale. This one's like just everything. Everything's on crazy sales, and you can get some really good deals here. Now, number 3, HP currently has their 15-inch HP Omen laptop for almost 20% off. Currently, you can get the laptop for $1,100, and it packs an RTX 2070 alongside an i7 processor, which isn't too bad given the hardware involved. And lastly, the SteelSeries Arctis 7X wireless gaming headset for Xbox, PC, Android, and Switch is available for $130 at SteelSeries' website if you use the code FORM, and it's normally $150. So PC gamers, you guys have, these last 2 weeks have been pretty good deals, so keep an eye out for them.
Yeah, definitely.
With that, Karak, it's backwards compatibility time. people want to get nostalgic, and you have the
Toy
best
Story
pick
3.
of all time. You have the best pick of all time.
Toy Story 3.
It'll never
Toy
be
Story
better
3.
than this. This is it.
Dude, when you wrote it, and I was like, man, what backwards compatible game do I even play right now? And then in the last couple days, I was doing something. I was looking through our stuff, and I randomly saw us talking about Toy Story 3 back in the day, because that was back in the day when we were both thinking we were the only ones who liked it. Do you remember that?
Oh, God,
we were like, yeah, and you mentioned it first, and you were like, Toy Story 3, and I'm like, holy fuck, that's awesome. And then find out most people on the internet who've played it were like, how is this game not bigger? But Toy Story 3 is probably one of the best ever TV, like cartoon to game, like translations I've ever seen in my life. I mean, that game has varied gameplay. It's basically, I don't know what you'd call that though, like a third person toy platforming. It's not even really a ton of some platforming, a lot of adventure. But I don't even know what you would, like, how that's termed in Steam. I would have to look it up. But it's fucking graphically, it still looks phenomenal. It's ridiculous. Like it transcends time. That thing could have been released right now as like a cheaper, it wouldn't be super high price, but like a cheaper mid-price game, and I would probably not bat an eye. At least,
dude,
at least at first.
I actually, funny enough,
good.
I was seeing if I remember correctly, a friend had asked me about Toy Story 3, the game, because they just brought it up randomly, and they're like, do you know anything about this? And I don't know why they asked me. I was like, this game is amazing. Please play it. And he texted me, he's like, I bought it, by the way, and it's so fire. And I'm just like, dude, it's the toy box mode. That's what really wins you over. So there's the story where you can replay the events of Toy Story 3, and those are pretty good missions. But then you've got this toy box mode that just, you can go around, and there's so much to do. I will always, always, always remember getting that game, and I wanted to do kind of like a joke Let's Play video on my channel, and I do have some videos up of me playing it, funny enough, that just like, it's funny. It has mass dislikes because a lot of parents went to watch it with their kid, and they got some 16-year-old guy just cursing his fucking brains out. Oh my God, bro. It's so bad.
I've had that.
It's
Skylanders
so
reviews. I've had that.
Dude, it's so bad. I'm like, wow. But anyway, Toy Story 3, I remember playing that, and I was setting up for my Let's Play, and I'm thinking, oh, I got to get past this tutorial. And I played the friggin' toy box mode for like 5 hours. And I'm like, this isn't
just say fuck doing the video. I'll just play the game.
Yeah, I did it the next day. My backwards compatible pick of the week is actually added as well to Games with Gold. I didn't know this was backwards compatible, or I would have put this way more immediately. Indiana Jones and the Emperor's Tomb. I dig the hell out of this game, man. It is a good one.
Yeah, it's a good game.
Yeah, it's a third-person Indiana Jones game, of course. It's got a lot of interactable hand-to-hand combat, so you'll like grab someone by their chest and throw them against the wall, and they'll actually recoil when they hit the wall, and there's combos you can do. There's a lot of collectibles, a lot of weapons. You can get like machetes and handguns, and there's limited ammunition, and so it's a tough game at times, but I remember playing this a ton as a kid, and once I saw this,
I think it's fair. It's tough, but fair.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I just remember playing this a lot as a kid, and I'm so excited to go back. I cannot wait. So once February begins, you'll have that via Games with Gold, February 1st to the 15th, it says. So take advantage of that, because it's worth having, I think. It's worth giving it a shot. All right. It's time for us to begin wrapping this up. 5 ending questions submitted by you, the audience, through patreon.com/laststandmedia. Selby Lopez is the first to write in. Greetings, Matty and ACG. I was so excited about the new show that I finally got an Xbox Series X after being on the fence for a while. The value of Game Pass has already made my purchase worthwhile. However, I have a little conundrum. I received an Xbox Store gift card, and every time I find a game I want to use it on, it's on Game Pass already. My question to both of you is, what are your top recommendations for games that are not on Game Pass? Stay safe and keep doing what you're doing. P.S. I'm primarily a PlayStation gamer, but I love your show just as much as Sacred Symbols. Thank you so much, Selby. That's very nice of you to say.
Yeah, it's very nice.
I feel like we may have had our answer earlier. Toy Story 3 is not on Game Pass, right?
Toy Story 3 is not on Game Pass. Yeah, that is true. That's one. Yeah.
I'm just saying, Selby.
I think the problem with Game Pass, or not the problem, but with Game Pass is, I think somebody said something yesterday where they were like, or today, where they were saying something about the medium, and they were like, I think this proves that like Game Pass is mediocre, and I'm like, no, it proves that Game Pass has so many games that you consider it mediocre because the number is so high that the highs and lows aren't as easily viewable.
Yeah.
And the problem with suggesting a game is many of them are on Game Pass now. I mean, many just are. Like, I would suggest,
or make their way there.
Most of my games are probably on Game Pass. Yeah. I mean, I don't even know of one that I would like instantly feel comfortable knowing wasn't on Game Pass. I mean, and a lot of them, like Stellaris, like. Yeah. Of course, he didn't tell us the genre either, which is a little hard to know.
I was going to say, we just have to blind shoot this one. I mean, there are plenty of RPGs. Like, I would say if you're into isometric style RPGs, maybe Divinity. You have Wasteland 3, though, which is one of the best isometric RPGs to come out in a while.
True. But Divinity isn't on Game Pass?
Divinity is not on Game Pass.
Oh,
so
well, there you go.
Divinity Original Sin 2. Give that a look. It is online co-op as well. I mean... man, there's so many. It's just like really hard to pick what's not on Game Pass. Selby, if you wouldn't mind writing in maybe a little more of your taste here, because I get you want to spend money, but we got to know what you like. I'm trying to think if there's anything else.
Dude, use your money to buy DLC for the games you do like. That is one thing that happens on Game Pass. Yeah. You'll get it, and they don't usually give you all the DLC. It's like maybe you should just find a game you do like and verify that there isn't DLC for it.
Oh, Hitman 3. Go buy Hitman 3.
Oh, yeah. Get Hitman 3. Yeah, that's actually a really good point.
Yeah.
That's a really good point. Awesome game. Definitely worth it.
100%. Very replayable, too. So go ahead. Treat yourself, Selby.
Yeah.
Andrew writes in, howdy, fellas. EA was widely criticized back in 2016 for burying Titanfall 2 in a release window, which was already heavily populated with shooters, including their own Battlefield 1. So why does it feel like no one's giving Ubisoft the flack they deserve for their fall 2020 releases? Watch Dogs Legion released on October 29th and has a 72% score on Metacritic. And according to HowLongToBeat.com, we don't use that site much here, it takes 30.5 hours to complete the main story, plus extras. What's funny is it took me way less than that. Assassin's Creed Valhalla released November 10th, and it scored an 80%, taking 86 hours to beat. Finally, Immortals Phoenix Rising was released on December 3rd with a 79%, I'm surprised, on Metacritic, and a 36-hour playtime. That's 3 huge, time-consuming, open-world games totaling 153 hours and 231 Metacritics. That's how it works, right? Released in only 35 calendar days. I don't know how these games have charted on MPD, but surely Ubisoft could have helped themselves by spreading out the releases over a few months, right?
First of all, I've heard nothing but complaints. Legitimately. Yeah. I'm blown away he has not heard complaints. That Lucky is him. All I've heard. There's entire website with articles. I think even Kotaku did an article. There's articles everywhere, people complaining about that. Like, is this game going to get lost? Is that game? You bet they didn't want to release them at the time. Phoenix was done and COVID delayed Legion. So at some point you have to release the games and get the people moving. Because remember, if your game is done and you don't move them on to another game, you're just paying for somebody to sit there and go, you're right. And you, for a lot of those projects, you have to be like, this is released so that we can take the income from that to pay this person. So I personally am saying, man, I feel, I wish I was you, because I had earfuls of people complaining about getting good games in a row. And I was just like, fuck off, man. I can't believe we got these huge, awesome games. Even though I didn't like Valhalla as much. But
yeah, I liked Valhalla the most out of the bunch of those. I thought that game was really good, actually. I really liked it. But because I feel like it's funny because like Odyssey was bloated in a different way. Valhalla is very long, but I felt like it was worthwhile time spent. Whereas I feel like Odyssey was it had such good characters at times, but it just didn't. It didn't.
You thought Valhalla was less bloated and whatever.
Yeah, that's what I described
like
in my
medium, where shit wasn't like happening as much as you want. In Odyssey, sometimes I can see that.
Yeah. So for me, I know that Valhalla did extremely well compared to the rest of the franchise. Like it sold really well. So Ubisoft is probably not kicking and screaming at all. We don't know really how Watch Dogs Legion did, as far as I'm aware. So
it was #1 for 1 week.
Okay.
Somewhere.
And they did an NVIDIA deal, right?
I don't even know where.
With the 3080s or whatever, where they'd come with the code of the game. So
fuck. And you know what? After talking to people about that for a different game, I found out Watch Dogs 2 was also done that way, Matty.
Oh.
And Yeah, and they made a killing. That's actually a killing because that is a prepay from the company. So there is a high chance that a good 1-for-1 of 3080s out there also technically purchased a some kind of cost, associated with Legion. So
yeah, and then we do know Immortals didn't seem to do well. It really
Immortals
right next to Cyberpunk.
And we don't know how much money it cost either.
Yeah.
One of the people was talking about is like we won't know. I do know that they've been contacting me consistently about DLC and further plans. So they're not dropping support because there's more DLC coming.
That would be.
So I don't know what's going on with that.
That would be a great Game Pass game. That is something that needs that exposure for sure. Sean Mason writes in, "Hey guys, loving the show thus far. Thank you, Sean. In the wake of Cyberpunk 2077's release, I wonder how this might affect future celebrity roles or artist collaborations in games. Among the many cameos, I'm struck by how the band The Refused must be affected by the nonstop negative coverage, dedicating their time, talent, and image to create an EP's worth of music for the game, only to have that be wholly forgotten and overshadowed by its launch issues is rough. Even though they surely made some money, I think they made a lot, I can't help but think the other actors, artists are looking on and saying, no thanks. Do you think the fallout from the negative coverage of such a high-profile game will be a blow to future crossover roles, cameos, or collaborations in the video game industry? Best, Sean Mason. P.S. I agree, 5 guy blows." Okay, thank you. All right, so do you think what happened with Cyberpunk's impact any crossover roles or any media members, high-profile people walking into games? Because I think it's only going to grow. Game did well.
And Keanu's been in absolutely batshit horrible movies. Yeah. So it's not like he's not accustomed to something not doing well. The dude's been in some terrifyingly bad movies. Steven Seagal's still acting in movies.
Oh my, is he really?
This idea that and the idea that an actor looks at it and says, "I'd rather not." No, do you know what an actor does? Hey, maybe this will do big. That's the difference between a game buyer and an actor.
Yep.
An actor is going to consistently want to get their work out there, and a game buyer is buying the end work. Completely different ways in which you look at them. So no. Also, David Bowie sang for Omicron, one of my favorite games of all time, made by David Cage for the Sega Dreamcast. It came and went. He had an entire soundtrack just for that, and people still, and he, by the way, returned again to games. Yeah, I don't see any stoppage. The Woo game, 360, John Woo, they had Stranglehold, had one of the really popular Asian actors. Yeah, I don't see. Punisher was Thomas Jane. No, Gunn was Thomas Jane, who plays Punisher.
Okay.
So we've seen some big actors. I don't see him looking at Cyberpunk and having an issue.
Yeah,
do you even think Keanu probably knows other than a residual check? Like he's doing Matrix.
I was about to say, I think Sean's definitely looking at this a lot from a consumer standpoint. I don't mean that in like we're looking down at you.
No, but it's just a different way.
Yeah, you're looking at it from your eyes where what is more than likely happening is Keanu ran home to the bank, The Refused ran home to the bank, and they're like, all right, cash that check. We did what we had to do.
13 million.
Yeah.
Matty. 13 million copies sold.
Yeah, exactly. So
big check.
Big check for sure. And I have no doubt about that. They have a lot of money they're sitting on, especially with GOG. Being attached to CD Projekt, they just have a lot of revenue coming in there. So, if anything,
I have a question for you, Matty.
What's up?
When you're done.
Oh, I was gonna say that I just feel like, I know some people are in disagreement with this, but I thought like Keanu's performance as Johnny was actually pretty solid, and he was one of my favorite characters in the game. And I look at the Refused EP, and I thought that was pretty good and added to the game. Like, I don't think if they were to, if you're pitching for a role or you're a part of something and people are looking for your past work, they're just going to look at that past work. They're not going to see CD Projekt Red worked over a lot of their shareholders. We're not hiring the Refused for our game. Those assholes. Like, no, that's not what's going to happen. So, sorry, what were you saying?
That was my question.
Oh.
My question was legitimately going to be about both the music and Keanu, but I personally believe Keanu was the best part, one of the best parts. Even though I don't think his delivery was great, it was Johnny. It
felt very Johnny.
His part was it felt very Johnny, like for his part, even though I know some people disagree. He wasn't an issue for me.
I agree.
And I normally would be like, why is that money being spent? And instead here, in fact, if Keanu had not been in and had not driven the PR for this game through the roof, I do not know if the sales would have been commensurate with what we saw either. I think that he did sell it. And especially when you heard more and more, we've fucking vamped this and Keanu's in it even more. Suddenly you're like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Like a major movie star from John Wick is in this game. Like, I'm going to get it.
Yeah, and especially when they said that he has like the second most lines in the game or whatever. That's because I thought when they announced him, I thought, oh, he's probably like a minor character. This is just a hype announcement.
Same.
And then you see how much Johnny Silverhand plays into the game. And
Constant.
yeah.
Dude.
He's in every side quest.
Which is great.
Like, I thought he was just main story. He's in every side quest, man. It's crazy.
Very well done in that regard.
Yep.
Very well done.
Drew D'Amato writes in, hello, guys. I have a random, quote, I'm new to PC gaming, end quote, question for you both. My question is, why do some games have bad PC ports, like Arkham Knight, but others have great ones, like Doom Eternal? I thought all games were built on PCs, so wouldn't it be easy to make them run well there? Maybe it has to do with multiple PC graphics cards / SKUs, as opposed to a handful of console ones, but wanted to get your thoughts. Thank you both for the time, and have a great day. So I think he answered his own question.
He did. He did. It depends on the engine too. Some engines are better than others. Unity versus Unreal versus what's the EA one? Snowdrops?
No, that's Ubisoft. Massive.
That's Ubisoft.
EA is Frostbite.
Frostbite, snow, frost, whatever.
Something about I didn't realize that the weather.
Magic spells. I didn't either. But and there is one that's a like a side one called Inferno. But I think when you look at it, yeah, it's just it's multiple SKUs and also I remember at the time for 360 games, 360s were that PPC hardware, which isn't a PC. And so what would happen was you'd have these really fast CPUs on the consoles, but they weren't in order or they weren't out of order like a PC. A PC is meant to multitask. And the Xbox 360 and PS3 prior were all meant to do one thing. So when the Xbox One and PS4 came out, I know there were a couple developers I was talking to who was like, dude, it's really hard to get like your processor to pull time and say, I need this CPU cycle to do this thing because they weren't accustomed to them.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think he's pretty right. You know, and some ports are just not, I mean, dude, Iron Galaxy did Batman, didn't they?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If they did, well, then that's your answer.
Some studios just do a better job.
I'm sorry. Some studio they've had shit luck. I think they've got much better lately, but that was a bad port, man.
Yeah,
wow.
Yeah, and that can boil down to UI controls, frame rate. I think it's a lot about
not
just
being
testing.
able to bind, Matty. Not being able to bind like your mouse and keyboard.
Oh my god,
stuff like that.
Yeah, I when I played Godfall, I hate to bring it up again, but when I played that, the PC port for that was terrible. The UI was not built for certain resolution screens. I tested it on 3 different screens, and like the UI was either cramped together and completely overlapping, which I've never seen in a game before. That happened on 2 screens of mine, and the other is it pushed off. Very very strange. Yeah, it was. I don't like that game.
Yeah, I've definitely. That's one of the few I can say I like. I would never question my memory if in a year somebody asked me if you liked it. I wouldn't be like, maybe he did. No. Nope.
Last question of the show goes to Giovanni D'Amico. Hey guys, love the show. Thank you. Quick question. Do you think we'll see an Xbox handheld in the 2020s? I imagine the hybrid model of portability and dockability will continue to be Nintendo's strategy for its consoles going forward, given how much success it has had with the Switch and also how it has allowed them to combine their dominance in the handheld space with console relevance in living room. And I can see Microsoft using the Series S as a launch pad to get into the hybrid model of less powerful but more portable. We've seen that kind of thing with the NVIDIA Shield, and I wonder if Microsoft will throw some money at this space in the next few years, or does xCloud and the play on any device strategy negate this question entirely? I think they're going to keep going xCloud for sure.
Yeah.
I think that's their plan, and it just makes sense. Not because they don't probably want to do handheld. I just think the reality is that Microsoft's always talked about reach, more people, exposure. Like those are a lot of their key terms, and I feel like you don't get that with handheld. You get that by saying like you can stream a console game onto your phone if you've got the proper internet, and then you just got to wait for the internet to catch up.
Maddie, I firmly believe this. So you already know you can stream. I think I told you this. You can stream your Xbox to your tablet.
Right. I always forget
currently
that. Yeah.
I can't. Yeah. So currently I can't stream ESO from the PC to the tablet, but I can stream ESO from the Xbox to the tablet. And one of the things I was telling one of my friends is I'm like, if Samsung or a company suddenly says, here's an app and it's Xbox streaming, and then it says, you want to stream locally from your machine, or do you want to stream xCloud normally? Dude, that's sort of a killer app. If you're able to be like, especially if you have the option for both, because some people will be like, why would I get out of front of my computer? Well, I got to tell you, I've been sitting in front of mine for a while. The idea of going to my couch is pretty high.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's like, imagine being able, what if you and I were playing a game and we're like, dude, I got to get up. So I just walk to my, it's still playing here. It's just going to stream to that TV, and you're going to have that extra lack of latency and all. Microsoft already has that built in. All that works right now in the app. So the idea of more devices makes sense, not another hardware. I would love the idea because I love local, but no way. No, like let Nintendo foot the bill for that shit.
Yeah, it's Nintendo's identity. Microsoft's kind of going beyond that, it seems, and so
for sure.
Yeah, I just don't think
Nintendo's got streaming games, Matty.
Yeah, they're starting to do the cloud version.
Remember that? Right? Yeah, they've got the cloud version of Hitman. Or no, I was going to ask you that. Do you know if the Switch version is the cloud version?
Yes. From what I've seen, it is.
Is that not crazy? People don't talk about that enough. The Switch plays Hitman and it's streaming. That's sort of like snuck up on people, where you don't hear a lot of people talk about
Control
Nintendo
as well.
streaming. But there it is.
I think Control, yeah.
Control's on the Switch?
Control is cloud edition, yeah. I don't know how it runs.
Have you done any of these? Oh, okay. Because I'd like to know the latency and stuff, because, they're never really touted as having a super good network adapter or anything. But if that's good,
not.
then...
Dude, I do not have a big house at all. And that shit, when I'm in my bedroom and my router's like one room over, my thing does not stay online, and I have to sit in the living room near my router. It is the weakest.
Like the router's right there, and you've
I literally have to be within. Last time I tested this out, because I don't play my Switch online at all, was Animal Crossing when it came out in like last March. And I remember specifically sitting on my couch, probably a good 4 feet from my router, and that's when it worked. I have good internet.
That's just wired. Yeah. That's just like, that's electrons. That's close enough to just fucking not have to worry about it.
Yeah, and I think someone told me you could do a USB to Ethernet.
You can.
And connect online that way. Look, I'm just not going to use my Switch for online play. It's just that simple.
Yeah, right.
I don't want to.
You don't want to. And it's also uncomfortable to have that wire like out the bottom. The way
and
I
just
hold
like
it
hanging.
sometimes.
Yeah, it just looks like a floppy dick hanging out of my fucking system. It's terrible.
Yeah. I have that battery thing. You and I don't know if you went with it, but I went with the extra battery.
I switched between that and my Satisfy. It's like a grip that kind of has like fatter handles.
Yeah. Big Fighting Cowboy sold me on that, and they won't fit with the battery on it, so I took a chisel and I made it fit.
Oh,
so just smart. So you know, yes, if you look, you can cut. There's 2 hooks that, for reasons unknown, are there on the back of the Satisfy, and I can't figure out why, but they block the battery. So I just took a little fucking Dremel, and I notched them, and I dremeled out. Nothing is there, no wires, nothing, and it works. Just a heads up, if
I'm gonna look into that.
If your dad's got a Dremel sitting around the house, and I've got so my Satisfy works perfect. Still got the 14 hour battery.
Yeah, it goes for a while. It goes for a while.
So nice.
For those who don't know, we're talking about this I forgot the name of the product, but you can literally attach it to your Switch and it'll charge it while you play. But it's such a powerful charge that even while it's on and you're charging while you play, it'll like override that battery. Like, it's not going to just stay equal. Like, if you start at 10, it's not going to just sit at 10%. It's going to put you well up to 100 easy. And
it puts you up and over. It's so weird. I was looking here just real quick for it. I have so many Switch. Oh, there it is. Big Blue is the one I bought. I bought a Big Blue 10,000 mAh battery charger, and it was only. And by the way, that's what Matty and I. It was only $30, which I know. I don't know if people think that's only, but I don't think that's a bad price for not having to worry about charging it.
I agree.
3 times less.
Yeah. So there's your Switch discussion. We've satisfied all 5 of you. With that. This is the end of episode 4 of Defining Duke, or as we put it, 5-6, 4 at the beginning of the show.
Yeah, 4. We're like we're like Knights of the Republic Online. We're all of the stories.
Yeah, right.
Remember
we're all the stories.
We're 3 through 9. This is 3 through 9 for our fucking podcast, or 4 through 9 right now. That's how much quality we give you guys. Multiple podcasts in one.
So we do hope you all enjoy. Please do continue to send your feedback, your kindness, your love. We appreciate it. And next week, who knows what that holds for us? Maybe we talk about KOTOR again. We're going to put that out into the universe, but more than likely it'll be Halo. Let's hope, right? Find out about that. How are we going to call it, right? There's KOTOR with an O. Let's say it's Knights of the High Republic. It's going to be KOTOR. Like, that's going to be...
Dude, I will pronounce it that way. Yeah. I can't wait. I hope it's that, so I can fuck that up and be like, yeah, it sounds like a fucking Klingon. I have no clue what it'll be. I didn't even think about that because some people call the online one SWOTOR, right?
Yeah, I do that. Yep.
Yeah, I think, okay, yeah, it is you.
SWOTOR.
I always fuck it up. I call it Star Wars Online, and most people know what I mean, even though that's a different game.
Easily recognizable. It's probably I sound like an elitist douchebag when I'm like SWOTOR. It's like, the fuck is that?
There's 85 letters and you still figured out a way to get it all to sound like something. like
it's
some
just
kind
such a
of
mouthful,
fucking NASA
you know?
person.
Like
it
the
is
old
a mouthful.
Republic. Knights of the old Republic.
I hope we are, man. I hope like it'd be nice to be done with the. It'd be nice to just have a title like so. Imagine just fucking having a title screen pop up that was like, you know, SWOTOR.
Well,
and you're just like, thank God.
Now that these rumors are swirling, anytime there's like some type of announcement that, hey, we're doing like Microsoft or PlayStation or Nintendo doing a direct, they're like, hey, we're doing this event. I'm like, I'm there. I got to see.
Yeah, me too.
I got to see in case it is there.
Yeah, just in case.
Yeah. All right. Well, it's time for us to wrap up. We appreciate all of you. And Karak, any final words before we close this out?
Hashtag defining Duke. That's the only one. Defining
Duke. Let us know you got
this. Not divining.
And we will catch you all next week with episode 5. All right? Take good care of yourselves.
Peace out.
We'll see you later.
Defining Duke, an Xbox podcast, is a product and trademark of Last Stand Media and Collins Last Stand LLC and is recorded from the good old USA. The show was conceived by Matthew Mr. Matty Plays Schroeder and me, Colin Moriarty, and is written and produced by Matthew Schroeder. Matty's co-host is Jeremy ACG Penter. Defining Duke's executive producer is Dustin Furman, and the show is edited by associate producer Ben Smith. As you know, all of Last Stand Media's shows, including Defining Duke, are fan-funded on Patreon at patreon.com/laststandmedia. The following names are at the producer support level or higher on Patreon, and we're grateful for your kindness and generosity.